Okay. Good evening, everyone. It's 6 o'clock. I'm going to call the public hearing to order. I just want to do a mic check. Can you hear me outside? Council chambers okay? Thumbs up all the way to the back. Thank you. Got a few procedural items to get through, and I'll just read from the page here. The purpose of the non-statutory public hearing tonight is to receive input and comments on the proposed Francophone secondary school at 136 Quigley Drive. I'm going to outline the procedures now by which we'll be taking your comments. But before I do, can I confirm that the notice of this hearing was published in accordance with Section 606 and 692 of the MGA, please? Administration, thank you. Thumbs up over there. Lots of thumbs up so far tonight. As the public came in, you would have seen the speakers list right by the door, and you had an opportunity to put your name on there. And we request that all in attendance tonight who wish to make comments ensure that you're on that list. To ensure that the hearing is conducted in a fair manner, we will abide by the following rules. I'm initially going to call on Mark Krasinski, Director of Community Growth, to present the background and process information, and introduce Monique Baker of Conseil Scolaire Franco-Sud. Hopefully I got that right. Once they have completed their presentation and answered any questions from council, I will call and go to the speakers list. When all those who have signed up to speak are complete, I will then ask if there is any other member of the gallery who wishes to speak. When your name is called, please come up to the microphone up here at the front, face the podium and state your name and any group or association you may represent. Each person will be given 5 minutes to make your comments, 10 if you're representing a group of 2 or more people. We appreciate everyone working to keep within the allotted time. If need be, I will indicate when your time has ended. And we do have a countdown speaker time on the screens, which will go backwards obviously from 5 minutes and give you an indication of when you're speaking where you're at. I ask that everyone be courteous, please, and respect one another. Only one speaker at a time to ensure that we can hear you and that you're directly in front of the microphone, because we are streaming tonight, and it's really hard to hear the stream if there's other people talking. Please do not interrupt a speaker or shout out comments from the gallery, and speakers, please don't engage in dialogue with gallery members. Once all of the public have had their opportunity to speak, council may call up the applicant, which is the town tonight. Will call us up for any clarifying questions. No decisions. I just want to make sure you guys are clear on that. No decisions will be made tonight, as the purpose of this hearing is to hear. That's the name. To receive information and comments about the proposed Francophone school site. So hopefully that is clear as mud, and we will carry on. So Mr. Krasinski, would you please come to the microphone and present why we're here and how we got here.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and members of Council. The subject of this public hearing is a request for support from Franco-Sud for use of a town-owned property, 136 Quigley Drive, for construction of a secondary school to accommodate projected increases in enrollment at École Notre-Dame-des-Vallées on the neighboring property to the west. As this is a non-standard public hearing unrelated to an active planning application, I wanted to provide a quick introduction for Franco-Sud and some of the background that led to the public hearing and next steps. In 2023, Franco-Sud identified Cochrane as their top priority for planning and design funding in their 2024 to 2027 three-year capital plan for the rural region. At that time, we were tied with one other municipality, Cochrane has since moved up to the leading priority in the 2025 to 2028 capital plan. As you will recall from our Cochrane School Site Readiness Report and presentation earlier this year, this is the first step in requesting provincial funding for new school sites. The next step is identification and ownership or support for access to a shovel-ready site in order to apply for provincial funding for planning and design work, which is work that is required to apply for a development permit as well. Administration was approached by Franco-Sud in late 2023 to assist them with site identification based on a few principles to enable delivery of a new school site as soon as possible to address the growing need in the community. One of those principles was to avoid impact to alternate sites that were already developed, allocated, or in use by the Rocky View School District or Calgary Catholic School Board, as well as having a shovel-ready site with appropriate land use. In late 2024, 136 Quigley Road was identified as the preferred option by Franco-Sud, and administration completed external engagement or internal engagement in preparation of a report to council in request of a letter of support for 136 Quigley Drive. On April 14, administration brought forward a report to council in support of Franco-Sud's request, and council requested additional engagement with the community and a public hearing as well. On June 2nd, 2025, Franco-Sud held an open house at Notre-Dame-de-Vallée and are here today to speak at the public hearing. Prior to council's decision at next week's meeting regarding a letter of support that is required for Franco-Sud to request provincial funding that they need to complete their planning and design work. If this funding request is approved by the province, then Franco-Sud can proceed with completing all of the planning and design work required to prepare a development permit application. Franco-Sud has committed to facilitating additional public engagement throughout the planning and design process to inform their ultimate design in the development permit application. Once received, administration will review the application and supporting documents and all additional studies that are required and necessary to inform a decision on their application, including additional public engagement and feedback that is provided through the open house completed by Franco-Sud, as well as through notification of adjacent landowners. The development permit application process is a step at which administration can review a formal design and plan for the school site to inform a decision and identify mitigating action to mitigate any concerns addressed through the public hearing and the open house processes. In parallel, there's a provincial funding and construction request that goes forward to the province to request funding for the construction phase, which is the second and last stage of provincial funding requests, leading to eventual building permit applications, construction, and opening of the school site, which we're looking to help expedite as fast as possible to address school needs in the community. With that being said, I wanted to hand it over to Franco-Sud and Mr. Duluth and Ms. Baker, who are here to speak about the application process and the request for their preferred site and a letter of support from Cochrane. Ms. Baker?
And do we just press enter?
Yep. This guy on the direction keys.
Okay, awesome. Thank you very much. Bonsoir, good evening, everyone. First of all, thank you for being here with us today, and thank you for this opportunity to speak on behalf of Le Conseil Scolaire Franco-Sud. My name is Monique Baker, and I'm the superintendent for the school district, and I have beside me Stéphane Delouf, who's the executive director of capital planning. So I'd also like to thank everybody who participated at the June 2nd information session. It was very constructive conversation, and questions helped to further reflect on the opportunities that we will be able to work in collaboration with the community of Cochrane. We very much look forward to that opportunity. Your feedback was greatly appreciated, so thank you to everyone who was there. Just a little bit of history about Notre-Dame-de-la-Vallée. So in 2002, we opened Notre-Dame-de-Vallée with 30 students. The school first welcomed students on the premises of Ranch House, and shortly afterwards, portables were set up near the baseball field, not far from Spray Lake and the Bow River. 2014, opening of a standalone school to accommodate students from K to 8. In 2024, you could see our first student to graduate from Notre-Dame de la Vallée, and we are so proud of that. In 2025-26, the school is expected to welcome over 235 students from kindergarten to grade 12.
We have to understand the school is a P3 model, which means it's a public-private partnership, and this model is used to design, build, finance, and maintain some school. So the P3 construction project limit expansion projects, knowing that every project from P3s has to be going to the government, and they have to add all the maintenance and ahead of it and those kind of things. So therefore, it's not possible to extend the actual building, and the space doesn't permit it as well. So the solution was for us to ask for a second building to be built. And when that step came in, we looked with the city of Cochrane to say, do you have a school site for us? The school site that was allocated at the time would not pass the site readiness form. And after multiple discussion with planning, with Calgary Catholic, with Rocky View, what came about at the end as the solution was to build a second building on the site that's adjacent to the school.
So the project that we are proposing is a long-term solution for our students from grades 7 to 12. As we mentioned earlier, the school was previously built for a K to 8, and we are growing. What we are looking for is building a school to accommodate our students from grades 7 to 12. And that would be a long-term solution, as we just mentioned, for 275 students at capacity. And this would be like a 10 to 15 years after opening. I think what's very important to note is that at Franco-Sud, our grade levels in the high school are not what we might be used to seeing with other larger high schools in the community, in the areas surrounding us. The full-size gym would be accessible to the community for volleyball, basketball, other associations. That is something that Franco-Sud is very well known for, is to be working alongside with the community and offering the accommodations that we have on weekends and evenings and etc. Outdoor amenities to be determined with the community. There are many things that we can look at: garden spaces, basketball courts, soccer fields, etc. The preservation of the green space between Notre-Dame-des-Vallées and Mitford. Also the preservation and improvements of the green spaces behind Notre-Dame-des-Vallées. This project aims to optimize resources, reduce duplication, and enhance community benefits. With the construction of this new school, so Notre-Dame-des-Vallées would become a K-6 school to accommodate approximately 225 students. And the new school, the new high school, would accommodate our grade 7 to 12s with approximately 275 students. At capacity, both schools would house 500 students. These two schools would be very modest in size compared to the other high schools in Cochrane. We know that in Cochrane High, we're looking at a little over 1,000 students just with the high school, as well as Bow Valley. So with Franco-Sud, with our students would be together. With regards to the transportation, it would not add, it would have very minimal impact on traffic, as all of our students do have access to transportation, and they're already transported to this K-12 school. So there would not be additional traffic for that situation.
So people are asking, is this the right site? Well, when we talk with planning, when we talk to the community, our community, the Francophone community, like when we look at this, we know that the city that already is short in school sites to provide to the 3 school districts that are in town in Cochrane, then they don't have to provide a new site. The site already exists, it's already serviced, it's already there for the community. When we think about future site, we know that for future need, when we use this site, it still leaves whatever site that are left for the other 2 school districts to be able to use it with the growth. We all know that based on the plan, the community development plan, that the town of Cochrane will be close to be doubling within the next 25 to 30 years. So how do we make this better is by trying to use everything that already exists. We minimize the associated costs and accelerate construction. The property is already zoned properly, so there's no change being done there. It already has all the service required. We're talking about water, gas, electricity, power, those kind of things, and it's construction ready.
So again, as we mentioned earlier, the community benefits, and that is very important to us at Franco-Sud. Access to full-size high school gymnasium. Residents, clubs, and associations can use the gym outside of school hours, and this is a common practice with our school district. Current gym is almost 100% booked by ACE Volleyball at this time, basketball teams and other associations. Notre-Dame de la Vallée already does a very good job at working alongside with the community and responding to those needs as well. The new recreational amenities, what we would engage with the community as to what does the community want. Is this community gardens? Is it training stations? And all sorts of different types of recreational needs, like I mentioned earlier, basketball courts, soccer fields, etc. Working with the community, Franco-Sud always involves the community, as I mentioned, in the construction projects. And I know that the team does a great job at the community engagement, and that is something we most certainly would always continue with. The creation of Community Advisory Committee. Initial meeting when a site is transferred to school use. Identifying partnership opportunities. We are well known for building adding some beautiful amenities that enhance a community. Collaborating to identify and implement mitigation strategies, and the community is informed of the project evolution and has the opportunity to provide feedback at the planning and at the design stages. So we do have several points where there is community engagement in the building and in the designing, and in looking at what are the community enhancements we can bring forward. The bottom line.
When we talk about the bottom line, we're talking about supporting the needs of the Francophone population and also at large supporting the needs of the Cochrane communities. When we look at what we offered earlier, like whether it's outside or inside the new secondary school. We contribute to the economical, social, and cultural development of the town of Cochrane. We're engaging with the community in the development of this project. We have proved it already by having an information session that was quite successful. We're talking about improving recreational opportunities for all residents of the West Valley and the other community at large. We know based on other places where we have built schools, when there's a growth that is quite exponential, it's really hard to keep up the infrastructure to offer, whether it's for sports, other activities. So we can help by having this new secondary school. We're talking about developing the green space to better serve the community. We all know that the field that's there right now has a lot of work to be done in order to become a top field, and I'm sure we can provide that. Implementing strategies to minimize the impact on bus and car traffic. As we mentioned in April, 93% of our students are taking the bus, and we know that our bus, our smaller bus right now, and knowing that the school would grow probably a 3 to 4% annually, that's why we have that long term. We know that our busing will not increase that much, but the size of the bus would increase for this project.
So on behalf of Le Conseil scolaire Franco-Sud, thank you very much for this opportunity. Un grand merci.
And just as a closing word, I think it would be important here to keep in mind that it's important to compare orange with oranges, apple with apple, and we just hope that this doesn't become one of those scenarios where it's not in my backyard, but really we look at the bigger picture here. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Sorry, I fled the scene a little too fast. Is there any question from
It
council?
looks like there's a few. I'm just going to take this opportunity. Everyone is supportive of different I guess, sides of this debate tonight. I'm just going to ask you to refrain from clapping, or we're going to be here all evening. We have a lot of people on the speakers list tonight, so please, if you can. Councillor Wilson, you're up first.
Thank you. Two quick questions came to mind. I think they're both going to be germane to the public hearing tonight. We're probably going to hear questions about them. One is population of your school currently. How many of your students are current Cochrane residents, and how many come from out of town? And is that proportion going to change with the proposed site?
Right now, based on the September count, like September 2024, I would say that about 90% of our students are from the town of Cochrane and 10% are from the county.
And is that likely to change with the proposal should it go forward, or do we expect to be drawing from Cochrane?
Well, what we've seen in the past with other projects, usually like there's a growth of about 2%. And due to the restriction that is caused by transportation, like after an hour on the bus, it becomes harder to have those students like coming. So they would probably go based on the circle that we have around Cochrane. Like you start to look at going to Canmore or going to West Calgary for those. So the impact would be probably minimal.
Okay, excellent. And then my second question that I guarantee we're going to hear tonight, it's been in my inbox a lot, is about number of buses or numbers of vehicles to the school itself. Should we choose to choose the second building? And I believe I just got my answer, which is just simply the number of buses won't change, but the size of them will change. They'll just become bigger buses, and we don't expect a lot more individual vehicle traffic.
I would say so at the start of it, but with the growth, there'll probably be adding 1 or 2 buses based on the population. We need to understand that each bus a maximum bus can accommodate about 72 students. Depending on the size and everything, it can go down to 61 to 62 students, because the younger you are, the more you can put in the bus. So depending on the population, we would probably look at within the 10-year period, maybe adding 2 or 3 buses.
Okay. And as I was playing this out in my mind, I was thinking the very unique thing about the school site is that obviously being the French school, it's drawing from the entire community of Cochrane and a little bit beyond. And so that's why we have so much busing rather than individual drop-offs, when a regular school would be pulling more from its immediate neighborhoods. Does that sound reasonable? At least that's in my head what I was.
That's exactly like what we would call it. We call it a urban school with a regional setting. So meaning that we have one spot for the whole community, and the buses are drawn from everywhere. So based on that question, I can add that the fact that the school is right beside, like the future site, if it's a go, then you save like another 6-7 buses to be going to another site somewhere. So we're talking about transportation, and we're talking about also the environment and those kinds of things.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we got a few more questions here. Councillor McFadden, all the green lights are questions. And the flashing one is next. Councillor McFadden.
Great, thank you very much. Thank you very much, folks, for your presentation. My questions are in the similar vein. As Councillor Wilson identified, I think we've been getting a lot of engagement through our emails, and the conversations I've been hearing and concerns are, the traffic impact, and then any setback or the interface between the existing neighbors to the west and then the school site. So those are kind of where my questions are coming from. So you'd identified that we're not really expecting a whole bunch of new buses, and we'll just have a handful of more buses that are larger to handle the growing population, and that I think you said you currently have like 93% of your student population is currently busing, and you expect that to continue. Now, what I didn't hear, what I don't understand is you're going to have more teachers, I assume, or admin staff. So what's the parking solution to kind of encompass the handful of students that might be driving, but also the administration and any teachers in the area that are driving in?
That's a good question. The teacher population rise with the number of students. So knowing that we already have about 1/3 of the students that are teaching grade 7 to 12 at the existing school, we know that there would be a shift of staff to the secondary school. We also know that for every 25 students, there's a new teacher that gets added. So knowing that the school is 275, we're talking about 11 teachers, around 11 teachers, with already 1/3 of those exist in the so it'll be about a 5 to 7 new stall that would be needed. And we need to keep in mind that with every new development permit, you have rules with your with the building codes and everything, adding parking that's attached to a school, and it's the same for every school in Cochrane,
Okay, so we would deal with,
depending on the size of the school.
right, so we would deal with that interface between any potential neighbors and the school within the town's land use bylaw and then the setback at that point.
Exactly, we just abide by, and it's not even us, actually, it's the architect that will design based on the bylaw that are existing. And that's why I think the development permit phase is quite important to make sure that we respect all the rules that are set by the town of Cochrane.
Those are my questions, thank you very much.
You're welcome, they were good questions.
Good answers.
Councillor Federico?
Thank you for the presentation. I have one question. If the school was to get approval and we're going through the process, when you talk about the recreational kind of green space, if the school was built, how much green space do we actually have left, considering that there's also field shared with Mitford, right, because of the schools all being together? How much green space are we actually talking about?
Without having a final plan, without having the exact drawings and all those things, based on what we've seen and what we have calculated, probably enough for a minor soccer field. And you still have the space that are in between the two schools, between Mitford and Notre-Dame-des-Vallées, that are already exist. And I do believe that because you already have the parking in place there, that would probably need to be maybe modified. We already have a bus lay-by for existing at Notre-Dame-des-Vallées. So there's a lot of space that, in a principle, if you would build a school standalone, that would have to be done. But because we already have a school on site, we don't need to duplicate. There's a few things that doesn't need to be duplicated, and we're talking about basketball tarmac. Those kind of things that are already existing for Notre-Dame-des-Vallées that was added or was there at the beginning due to the fact that the school was made for K-8.
Thank you, and I guess we don't have that design option until we kind of go through the process of moving forward.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Don't see any other questions. I've got one, maybe two. Next step, so it's not, the process we're actually going through is identifying it or allowing it to become a school site, shovel-ready school site. Next steps then would be applying to the province for funding. Can you maybe outline the timeline in that? I mean, I think some people think that maybe construction would happen next summer.
Okay, so the way that it works, as expressed by Mr. Krasinski, like there's a capital plan that is done every year. This year we did the capital plan for the next year, 26 to 29, and our priority number one was Cochrane. Because there's no site associated with it, the government won't even look at it. Like they might ask you a question or two, but it's not even part of their books. So if next week this decision was in favor of allocating the site to be able to build a school, then the process would start. We would probably write a letter. We would probably ask the town of Cochrane to support us and say, yes, this site is ready, we support this. And then we would send that letter to tell them, look, we're ready now, let's play ball. And from there, it goes to like committees, those kind of things. And then it might be this year, they'll say, yeah, we're giving you the go-ahead. It might be next year, depending on budget, depending of the treasure and all those things. So that's the next step really, is after the site is allocated, whether it's this site or any other school that, like other district that apply for a site, then it's presented and we do the site readiness form saying that there's no oil well, there's no this, there's no that, it's flat, it's service. It was never any like chemical, those kind of thing. And from there, the ball keeps rolling until it goes in committees and then they make decision. We have to understand that there's 63 school districts in the province and every school districts have needs that need to be fulfilled, and we're just one of them.
Right. So then, if I understand correctly, that with the school accelerator program that the province announced, they've split this now into design and construction. So that first phase would be design, and then that would be when you decide on size, the ultimate size and layout on the site. And what about height?
Actually, just to correct you, the first phase would be planning.
Okay,
So
yeah.
they do planning and then pre-planning or planning, and then they go design, and then they do construction.
So it's 3.
Yeah, and that's why we've been kind of like asking for this opportunity, because we know that the accelerator program will not last forever, and there's a small window of opportunities, and we would like to be able to get through that window to be able to get the project rolling.
Right, and it may be too early to speak to this, but are you thinking 2 stories high? I mean, I think there's been some concern about the neighboring properties about impacts. Can you speak to that yet, or is it way too soon?
Well, at this time, we know that a gymnasium will always be 1.5 or
Certain,
2
yeah.
stories, so there'll be a part for sure that'd be 2 stories, but we do have schools like we have in Brooks, Medicine Hat, Lethbridge, they have dug it, so it's still a main floor, where we have a 1-story building with a gymnasium.
Yeah, okay. All
I
right,
think just to
Yeah.
add to that, it's important to note that it's for a school of, to accommodate 300 students.
right,
So that size is minimal compared to maybe some other high schools that are built to accommodate larger numbers.
got it. Okay, thank you. Appreciate your presentation. We may have follow-up questions at the end.
Okay?
Thank you
Merci.
very much.
Yeah. Okay, so this is the part of our program, we go to the speakers list. We've got Mr. Rick Deans up first. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As you know, my name is Rick Deans. I'm here tonight representing myself and my wife, Leslie. We have been residents in West Terrace for 29 and a half years. Before I begin, I want to thank Council for the chance to appear at this public hearing to speak to the matter at hand. I also want to acknowledge the efforts of staff and the Franco-Sud team to date. Sorry, I need to go back 1 slide if I can. Is that, there we go.
Yeah.
On the slide, I reference the Envision Cochrane 2050 Guiding Framework document, which I commend Council and staff for implementing. I'd like to draw your attention to at least 3 pillars, which I interpret to have connections to the proposed project. I also want to remind Council I was an employee for the town for almost 25 years and experienced the rapid growth challenges with a thriving municipality. I was part of teams that reviewed new development applications along with assessing the details on proposed critical infrastructure. I was also involved and led project teams on over 80 million in completed capital projects that improved the experience in Cochrane for residents and visitors alike. I'm not here to blow my own horn, but to simply quantify my experience in planning local major projects. Since this project was put on the public radar in April, we have met with town planning staff and relevant members of Franco-Sud in a focused meeting where common understanding and concerns were shared. There was also the public information session hosted by Franco-Sud June 2nd. Unfortunately, I still don't have the level of detail and insight to help me understand further why this project has landed on the site in question. Specifically, from my perspective, the project location options were not fully exhausted to help understand why a site or option was eliminated from the review. Where was the decision matrix to support the selection? You will hear a number of concerns from residents at this hearing that likely include urgency. We ask, are we settling on a short-term Band-Aid solution? And is the urgency truly warranted? Technical and engineering. Details such as traffic, parking, pedestrian safety, site servicing, and drainage. I appreciate that some of this occurs in more detail after endorsement, but some cursory analysis is typical in the site selection process to avoid any unforeseen issues that could drastically shift the project's success. The real probability of loss of property value and enjoyment. Council hears this concern frequently with proposed development and zoning considerations throughout town. When you consider that typically the largest investment a resident makes is their home, this is a very real concern. Loss of public green space. High-density subdivisions are already experiencing minimal green space amenities that have functional use for more than playgrounds with play structures. Open field space is at a premium in the 3 subdivisions to the west off Quigley Drive. Emergency access and egress. It is agreed that this is always a challenging problem given the local topography and physical features such as the Bow River and the railway. But learning from past mistakes in other areas, do we want to compound the problem further? The overall proposed site layout and its impact to local community. It really does seem like the current concept design is like squeezing a square peg in a round hole that results with drastic visual and aesthetic implication to the local community. Finally, lastly, and critically important, has the consideration to alternate site locations been fully evaluated to determine the best location and design for the intended use? There are always complex details to analyze, and a few key areas I urge the project team to look at further would include re-examination of other community service sites, and specifically the St. Tim's site. This is a screenshot of the interactive map on the town website, which is very good, by the way. We note there is a 7.93 acre site owned by the town that is also zoned community services. From our understanding, the site was never really explored in any detail, except to say that St. Tim's was not interested in working with Francophone on a partnership. This should not impede further examination on a site owned by the town, like the location in question, that is larger and can support a superior high school with more amenities to attract students, as opposed to the smaller design on the irregular site in West Terrace. From my local knowledge in the area and time as an infrastructure employee in Cochrane, I can say that this site currently does not have service connection stubs. The water and wastewater connections will need to be dug in and connected off Quigley Drive, most likely at the expense of the municipality. While this may be required for other potential sites, is the investment at this site worth the long-term benefit? Any existing and new drainage patterns will also need to be accommodated within the restrictions of the existing drainage network, which could strain the system and cause flooding. And the existing Mitford soccer field is suggested to be now shared between the 3 schools. I see my time is up. I will jump to the last slide. This was about funding, but I know this will be talked about again. To conclude, our local community supports the need for more schools for all student demographics overall. We appreciate the right and need for Franco-Sud to have a proper high school to support their cultural preservation, at the same time recognizing the school is exclusive in its purpose and enrollment criteria. The endorsement of this particular school site should not be attributed with solving the overcrowding in the school system as a whole. To conclude my presentation, through the information council will hear presented tonight, we urge council to take a step back and request the project team reevaluate the project needs from multiple lenses, along with timing and location options, to produce the best deliverable for its future students and the community as a whole. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Deans. Councillor Wilson, you have a question?
Yes, please. Mr. Dean, it's good to see you back at the podium. That was one of the best public hearing presentations I've ever seen. It's like you have experience of doing this.
Thank you, Councillor Wenson. I wasn't really expecting this would ever happen again, but here we are.
I just had a question about, I understand, I think everything from your slide from a resident's perspective that lives nearby, is there anything about the site design specifically that bothers you? When you said square peg, round hole, it was just because there isn't enough land in your estimation to put another building on the site? Is that the main thing, or is it where they've actually placed the proposed building, or the size of it, or the setbacks? I just wanted to push you on any of those topics.
Yeah, absolutely, Councillor Wilson. Yeah, from the conceptual design that we were shared with earlier, it would appear that the school was going to be 2 stories and it was going to be 15 meters offset from the back fences of the residents that are in West Terrace there, which can be pretty daunting when you look out your back window and all you're going to see is a 2-story building right outside your window. So we are concerned certainly with the design as it currently sits, and the fact that there's going to be a lot of opportunity for unvisual activity, like stuff that you can't see from the street that could happen. We already experience that behind the existing schools, that sometimes in the cover of night things happen that shouldn't happen.
Okay, thank you. And so what I was really, thank you, that describes most of it. What I was really trying to get at is if there's good, better and best, obviously best is different site altogether. Better would be a redesign of the current proposed building in your estimation with larger setbacks, I believe is what I just heard is the main criteria that you're looking to change if it were to go on that site?
Yes, if council endorses that site and the next steps occur, certainly it was stated that the school division and the town potentially would be working with the community residents, and certainly at that point in time, the resident group would like to look at the design options that would provide the least amount of impact on the residents if that was indeed the preferred site selection.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for being here.
Councilor Federico?
Thanks for the presentation. Quick question, when you brought up the 7.93 acre site with St. Tim's, are you including, like, is that a separate site other than where St. Tim's currently lands, or are you talking about having both programs run out of St. Tim's?
No, I was going to try to go back to that site, but that is an exclusive CS site that would be independent of the St. Tim's School. Yeah, right there. So it would be, from our perspective, it would be a site that could be utilized in a similar fashion to what they're currently looking at the West Terrace site.
Thanks for the clarification. So a question to administration, was this site actually something that was looked at by Francophone as an option?
Through the mayor, Councilor Federico, the principles that were used when we evaluated the subject sites, we're looking for sites that were serviced and with the required land use in place that avoided impacting other schools' existing operations. So in this circumstance, while the member of the public is correct that it is owned by the town of Cochrane, this site is used for programming at the Calgary Catholic School Board District. So we did not look at school sites that were currently used for either operating as a school or used for the amenities of that school, such as the site. Since the public hearing, we had additional looks at the site, and there are additional challenges with it, but in the initial analysis, our principles were to look for sites that avoided impacting schools being run by other school districts.
All right, thank you for now.
Councilor Reid?
Just while administration's up there, can you identify what the implications might be for the current infrastructure? Is there in fact capable of handling water and sewage for an additional building of this size?
Through the mayor, Councilor Reid, some of our initial internal engagements, we rely on the subject matter experts internal in our organization and confirm that we engaged multiple times with representatives from engineering services and civil land. Although the detailed analysis really is done at the development permit application phase based on studies that are required by planning services in that application. So really the refinement of that will come at the development permit application phase, but some high level initial judgments were evaluated, including our consultant with the town, Urban Systems, who was present at one of those meetings where this file was discussed.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I don't see any other questions. Oh, there was one.
Late to the button, my
Councilor
apologies.
McFadden?
Sorry, I did have a follow-up question. You'd identified that one of your evaluations of this site was that you were looking for things that didn't conflict with the current use. And can you just identify me, because I'm not familiar, how St. Tim's is currently using the blue space in any of their programming? Because in my visual, I only ever just see it as kind of a rough field.
Through the chair, Councilor McFadden, it's used for some of their phys ed programs. So you can see to the north-ish here, you'll see that this kind of bisects all of their field area that they would use for phys ed and other school functions that they have. Of course, right now they don't, I believe, have a football program, but as the school grows and increases in size, those may be alternatives that they're looking at as the school continues to fill out, acknowledging it currently as a lower enrollment than other schools.
And have we had any connection with St. Tim's or any of their thoughts on potentially sharing the site?
Through the mayor, Councilor McFadden, there were initial conversations about co-locating within the school, and then additional conversations I think have happened behind the scenes through our partners at Francophone, but nothing formal. Again, we were requested to move forward with the preferred option for the applicant, which has significant synergies and optimizes land utilization within the municipality by reducing the footprint of, as our partners from Francophone spoke to, the need to duplicate servicing that you would need to do if you locate at a site that is adjacent to the existing Franco-Sud school.
All right, thank you very much for that, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Deans.
Thank you, Council.
Council, I'll just remind, if we could keep our questions for administration till the end, and then we can get through all of the public tonight. Up next, Noreen Proctor.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Mayor Jeff Ganung and councilors for allowing us to speak today. I'm in the cul-de-sac of West Terrace, and Rick is my neighbor, so I'm very concerned about our little hood neck of the woods. And on a really positive note, I want to say I moved to Cochrane 5 years ago, but when I lived in Calgary, I came out here every weekend and more through the week because I wanted out of the city. And my dad used to have a saying, city people are shitty people. That was a bit of to get you to laugh a little bit, because we all need a touch of humor. So I really love Cochrane. It's my town in my heart and my soul. The most important thing to me here, I don't have kids, that was my choice, but I live with a lot of dogs. To me, the most important thing here is emergency evacuation. Over the last 2 summers, I've had some really wonderful chats with, and I meant to say thanks to Lisa, because she's really cool over there. Sorry, Lisa, meant to add that in. Just about fires, and as every year the smoke gets higher in around the town, it makes you a little bit nervous. So I've packed way more than just a go bag, and Sean Pauly said that's a great thing we should all be doing. So I'm very concerned about emergency evacuations in general. So as we all know, West Terrace, West Valley, West Point, they're all the 3 communities that are affected by heavy traffic during school drop-off and pickup hours. Having a 3rd school would negatively affect traffic on Quigley in an unsafe way for both emergency evacuation possibilities along with personal emergencies where folks may be prevented from easily exiting our 3 communities. We've got 2 schools, 2 daycare centers here. Cochrane is becoming a little over congested, I think, especially the long-timers here would agree with that, with traffic, and so many folks are moving here. The space here is too small for a 3rd school, and additional buses and vehicles, and we don't know how many buses or more vehicles they're gonna have, especially over the years, especially with the growth of this town. There may be people from Calgary that are gonna move here because they want a French-speaking school. And that's a positive thing, but not in the space, I don't believe, that where we're at. So 275 students, perhaps more in the future, presents a very real potential issue of safety for us. Pedestrian safety is an issue. In time, 275 kids will increase, especially with the growth of our town. If an emergency requires us to evacuate the town of Cochrane, this school will add another 275 students along with teachers. That could mean in time hundreds more cars on Quigley. And I was told, someone else is going to mention this tonight, that there's 11,000 vehicles, this was a stat from the provincial government, are going up and down Quigley every day, which was a shocker to me, but that's a lot of cars. Let us learn from other communities with exiting issues like Cochrane Heights. I thought about moving there, great community, but I'd never move there considering the schools and the one exit, so you've got an emergency, good luck, Charlie. So all the schools there and only one route out of their community. There has been no up-to-date traffic study done as yet on how this would impact the residents with more buses, student, teacher, private cars entering and exiting our neighborhood. For residents having a personal emergency, that's another real issue, that may require driving to urgent care here, or let's say a Calgary hospital. The traffic jams created with an additional school could cause, and I'm very serious, could cause a life and death situation. That's very real. This needs to be addressed. Many residents choose to live in these older neighborhoods, that's me, I'm one, for larger lots and green spaces. Many Cochranites are finding the town's expansion is to be overbearing and is becoming crowded, and most all residents wish to maintain our green spaces at the very least. The land where the two existing schools are used for sport and so much more. Cochrane still offers us a semblance of small town vibe, which I'm so grateful for. You go into the grocery stores, any of the shops, they all know you. I mean, who's got a nicer Canadian Tire than Cochrane, right? So that small town vibe, we need to keep that going somehow. So if we pack in everything like sardines, people are gonna wanna leave. I know a number of people that would consider it if we get too overgrown. I know we have to grow, but anyway, I left Calgary due to noise, traffic congestion, and more. This is another reason I chose to move into this older community of West Terrace. The quiet, the peace, and the green spaces were a huge part of my decision to relocate here. Overcrowding will ruin these older communities. There's a better and a safer answer for Franco-Sud. I know some of the teachers and principals from the school already there, and they know me from my pups and dog walks, and they're wonderful. But there's got to be a better answer for them, and I want to wish them the best of success. And I thank you very much for listening.
Okay, thank you. I was going to remind you on time, and then you got there.
Oh,
you're
am I
good.
okay?
Well, you're a little over, but it's all good.
Okay.
Yeah, thank
Must
you.
have been a joke.
I don't see any questions for you, Noreen.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Next up, Chantel McKinnon.
Hello, my name is Chantel, and I am a resident of West Terrace. I would like to present a critique of the April 14th council presentation. The information presented to council was not complete, and respectfully, I would like to help council make a more informed decision. The gray boxes will represent screenshots of that presentation. In regards to funding, there was an unnecessary sense of urgency at the meeting that this needed to be approved within the 7 days. Most residents found out about this in less time as we read it in the paper. I found this to be both confusing and misleading. Pre-planning funding is available for school projects, so the studies requested, such as an updated TIA, can be done with government funding. This cost would never have fallen upon the school board to pay. Alberta Education confirmed to me in April that Francophone is well aware of this, as they have received pre-planning funding for other projects. It was presented that an expansion was not possible. I had a discussion with Alberta Education Capital Planning and asked for clarification on this, as this was surprising to me. Alberta Ed Architects are the only ones that can determine if an expansion is possible and the cost. The new funding model covers expansion costs, and this is a route that can be investigated further. I disagree with the statement that traffic impacts should be minimal, as 93% of our students are bused in. Logically, the statement does not make sense to a large high school population. High school students drive in Cochrane. Just ask Bow Valley and Cochrane High. They have jobs and they are social. Insurance rates speak to the safety of high school drivers, and we have a daycare across the street. The road is 3 meters more narrow than Mitford. There's no space or parking for students, staff, buses, or events. If these schools are both at full capacity, at around 500 students, that means they need to find space for at least 13 school buses. I also disagree that this should be seen as an added community amenity rather than a loss of municipal reserve. Flat green space should be free and available to residents. Gym space is $110 to $150 an hour to rent at Rocky View. I could not get a booking price for Francophone, but it would not be free. This field is used all the time by residents to play, cross-country ski, ride bikes, and there's even karate classes. Mitford Field is now affected, as the third school that would be sharing the field was cropped out of the design presented to you. You now have one full-size field for 3 schools. This is too small for high school students that are big and they need space, and it also impedes Mitford's programming and its future expansions. I think now that future expansions are hindered, there's not an adequate outdoor space for our students, that this is not an overall benefit for education. This does not solve any of our school capacity issues in Cochrane because it serves such a small niche portion of the student population, and the school still has more space for students. Alberta Education also confirmed to me that funding covers the utilization of underused schools. So Francozoo could use part of St. Tim's, which is at 45% capacity, even potentially for a temporary time frame. These schools could function completely separately, like what CCA and Mitford did. They also said they would need to know why 2 Catholic schools cannot work together to address empty school space before funding is approved in Cochrane, as they don't generally support building more empty schools. Furthermore, there are 2 fields at St. Tim's that are zoned the same and could be considered as a build site, with no residential homes directly impacted. I think the phrase "a square peg in a round hole" applies to this proposal. Issues with this site include traffic and parking, stormwater drainage, emergency access. Other layouts, Francophone said, are not possible due to the terrain and the small lot size, loss of open space, property values decline, safety, loss of sunlight, and open spaces. I am proposing the town finds an alternate for Francophone's desired new high school. This should allow for future expansion of that school and be able to provide basic high school requirements, outdoor space like a full-size field, etc., without negatively impacting Cochrane residents or our other schools. I appreciate that this is challenging, but there is always time for things to be done properly and thoughtfully, and with consideration on how the space will be used in 20 years. Envision Cochrane 2050 highlights smart growth while maintaining residential character. I encourage you to vote next week in a way that reflects the values outlined in that document by denying their land transfer. Thank you for your time.
Okay, I see we have one question. Councillor Federico, so far.
Yeah, I actually don't really necessarily have a question, but can we get these slides that the presenters are
Yeah,
doing?
we sent them to Lisa already. Okay. She's great. Hi, Lisa. So she would have them already.
Perfect. If we can get them sent to us, that would be fabulous.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Next up, Pam Stevens, Janice Ward, and Judy Burritt. And I see you're coming together. Is that how you?
Yes, we are.
Yep.
Yes. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Pam Stevens. This is my neighbor, Judy Burritt, and another neighbor, Janice Ward. We all live in the cul-de-sac on West Terrace Close.
All 3 of us are homeowners in West Terrace. Pam and I are 2 of the only 5 residences that back onto the green space. It is extremely hard for us to speak because we are not public speakers and we do not feel comfortable, but this is too important of an issue for us to remain silent. After my husband's 32-year career with the RCMP, 5 provinces and 12 moves, we purchased our home in West Terrace. This was supposed to be our retirement home. We didn't buy the home because of the railway track. We bought the home because of the green space behind. We have put tens of thousands of dollars into renovations and love our home very much. It was to be our forever home. No one is entitled to interfere with a homeowner's privacy, security, enjoyment of their home, and mostly important, the value of the largest asset they have. Would any homeowner like the thought of losing $50,000, $100,000 on your property value with the first shovel scoop? We don't want to live in a home with a backyard that never gets any sunlight and a view of a 2-story wall from our living room window. We see this green space being used all the time. During the school year, the NDV students use the field quite often, and then residents in the evening. It's unbelievable to me that this issue is even being considered. The mayor and councillors here are to represent all residents in the town, not just a select few. This also includes your seniors, as well as it's not just our school-age students that play and live here. We have elected you to represent all of us, to be compassionate and to understand and respect all the citizens of Cochrane. Thank you.
My child goes to Mitford and they use the entire Mitford field for their gym classes, sports, track and field days, etc. It has always been fully used during recess. We should not be taking away outdoor space from existing schools to make room for poor infrastructure decisions. This field is not big enough to be shared by 3 schools. I have 2 active boys and we use the space all the time. It's part of the reason we chose to live here. My 2 kids are separated for schools. Why is it unacceptable for the Francophone community to be separated but not the Anglophone? I heard Francophone stating that there is very minimal cars for drop-off because they are all bused, but I don't find that this at all to be true. When I drive past there's always parents dropping off kids of all ages. Furthermore, if they say the busing is free, what's the problem with kids going to separate schools? I would make sure that when my kids are in high school, they have access to a full-size field and have sufficient room to play outside.
My husband and I have been residents of West Terrace for almost 29 years. Our home was the first to be built on the west side of the green space in question. I want to point out some history and facts in our community. Confined to one small area on Quigley Drive, we have Mitford Middle School, Montessori Preschool and Daycare, and the NDV School. Traffic issues and safety have always been an issue in our community. In the late 1990s, the community had to lobby the town for a safe pedestrian crossing across Quigley Drive at West McDougall Road. The town installed large concrete barricading type blocks in an attempt to narrow that intersection. This created more safety issues, and the town finally installed a flashing pedestrian crosswalk. I was unable to obtain the traffic violation stats for Quigley Drive. However, traffic enforcement has continuously been requested by residents to the point where municipal enforcement strives to have a patrol vehicle on Quigley every day during the school hours. Even though there has not been any serious accidents, I do remember one child being struck by a vehicle and thankfully suffered only minor injuries. We are lucky this hasn't been more. I believe it's just a matter of time. Traffic congestion. Some mornings, eastbound traffic along Quigley has been backing up all the way from the Highway 22 to at least the Bethany. According to the Alberta Transportation, the traffic study conducted on the intersection of Highway 22 and Quigley Drive in 2024 indicated that the annual average daily westbound traffic on Quigley Drive was comparable to traffic northbound on Highway 22. Our CMP have been called over various incidents over the years. We have seen vandalism at Mitford, kids climbing up and urinating off the roof of the Francophone school, underage drinking behind both schools, and speeding and reckless driving on Quigley and our back alley, to name a few. In fact, in 2017, 4 youths were charged for trespassing on the Francophone school. Adding another 275 students plus support staff will just exasperate all the points I have spoken about. Over the years, in the green space, we have seen spring minor soccer leagues, karate classes, baseball games, golfing, football, cross-country skiing, and family gatherings. My kids flew kites in that field, launched model rockets, and learned how to ride a bike. People are continually recreating in that space, the only large green space in our community. I recently heard that studies have shown that being in a green space reduces stress. In May, the town put out an engagement survey for the Parks, Culture, and Active Living Master Plan, where that survey said, quote, to create vibrant, accessible parks and recreational spaces that encourage healthy, active lifestyles while celebrating Cochrane's distinct culture and heritage. By considering how parks, culture, and active living all work together, we can create a long-term and strategic plan that reflects our community needs. I hope Council will remember this policy as they make the decision in this case. To quote, the Alberta Bill of Rights protects the right of every property owner to the enjoyment of their property and the right to due process of law when being deprived of such right. Should a building of this size be shoehorned into the small area, the neighboring homeowners' enjoyment of their property would be dramatically reduced. We all share the same concerns raised by other residents. We love our home. We love our neighborhood. We raised our children here. We built a life here. We have just retired and want to live out our lives here. This has been very stressful for everyone. In my opinion, the Francophone School Board representatives know nothing about our community, our neighborhoods, or any of the ongoing issues we as residents face on a day-to-day basis. We are not in opposition to a Francophone high school. We are in opposition to any school being built on this site, as it is not big enough. It's not a big enough parcel. The residents of our community and the students of this school or any other school deserve a solution that is in the best interests of everyone. Thank you.
turn my microphone off. You did pretty well for not being public speakers. Thank you. Matthew Perkins.
Hello, my name is Matthew Perkins. I am a resident of West Terrace. I've been in the area for about 21 years. And I'm here to oppose the school site. Envision 2050 is Cochrane's official municipal development plan, a document that will guide our growth and development over the next 25 years. It serves as a guiding framework for all municipal planning decisions, shaping policies on land use, infrastructure, servicing needs, and community design. All this information you're about to hear is a direct quote from the document. Cochrane's distinct Western culture, sense of arrival, and welcome open spaces contribute to our identity as a community. Cochrane attracts residents and visitors as seeking an active lifestyle and opportunities to spend time outdoors. Its open spaces and amenities provide recreational opportunities that support strong and resilient people and communities. These spaces also have become points for residents to connect with one another and build a true sense of community. Next. Subsection 3.2.19 states development and redevelopment sites must demonstrate how the open space, mobility, and utility networks are integrated into the design of the site. 3.2.63 states support passive recreation use, restoration, and conservation of open spaces with intact natural areas. 3.2.66 states enable the planning and integration of natural areas and open spaces into all new development where applicable. 4.5.10 states plan located and configure new schools in a manner that maximizes the ease of student access and supports clear and safe drop-offs, pedestrian and cycling access routes. 4.3.14 states create parks, recreation facilities, and open spaces that support four-season use. 4.3.15 states ensure all residents live within a 400-meter walking distance of a park, plaza, or open space where possible. When this target cannot be met, identify pathways and routes that can be improved to facilitate better connectivity. 5.3.18 states explore the creation of an integration open space network connecting the county and the town. Land use. Focus density in communities that can support it and expand the park system as part of development. Community design. Design communities to support residents of all ages and abilities. Growth. Growth that is supported by infrastructure, protects natural areas, and improves connections. Open spaces and natural areas. Focus on protecting nature and green space through preservation, education, and regulations. Servicing. Develop infrastructure with long-term needs and efficient service provisions in mind. Mobility. Address traffic. Goal 6. Cochrane maximizes the function, connection, health, and the potential of its parks and open spaces. Cochrane is investing in its facilities, parks, and open spaces, the recreational and environmental benefits they provide to the community. As you can see, the town development plan speaks against this open space being developed. This document should be the driving force behind our decisions. Please deny the land transfer and keep West Terrace Field open as a green space that can be enjoyed by many residents and students. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Perkins. Harry Templeman.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Hello, my name is Harry Templeman, and I believe the West Terrace field is an inappropriate spot for an additional school site. Infrastructure in Cochrane must be built wisely and with future expansion and community designation growth in mind. While I appreciate and respect Francosude's desire to expand the school, this 4.5 acre property site is not the solution, and the town has time, hopefully, to find an appropriate location. Next slide. The proposed 15-meter setback for a 2-story building from the back fence of the neighborhood is too close. This 15-meter buffer does not account for additional emergency access road, dumpster, or garbage storage, future portables, or even the vegetative screening proposed. This is a municipality reserve that is fully utilized by the current school and residents. I believe that the town planners and council should protect every single resident from poor infrastructure decision. The image on the left shows a view from a home with the current 72-meter distance from fence line to school. The image on the right, how do I go to the next? Yeah, you got it. Okay, you got it, right? Yeah, thank you. This image on the right is to illustrate what a 2-story building would look like 15 meters from the fence. There's no need for this to happen. The school can build on a municipal reserve that does not affect the residents drastically, or be included in one of the future undeveloped school sites. Next slide. Here's a chart that outlines the distance of the schools in Cochrane to backyards of single-family homes in Cochrane. Please note that this means that we're not measuring from the schoolyards over existing roads, ways, or alleys. This puts Glenbow at the closest at 20 meters, while it's only a single-story building. The building proposed here will be a 2-story at 50 meters, as it will have a large gym. Most schools have been built to allow for appropriate distance between residential buildings and schools, such as Midford, Bow Valley, Notre Dame, and Randview. And they are 73 meters, 50, 72, and 105 meters respectively. Typical, these buildings also trend away from residents and design elements that are not possible on this small parcel. And here's a chart created to show you a lot size of the proposed new school developments in Cochrane. The average new school site would be around 9.5 acres. Horse Creek is excluded from this calculation, as the outliner would skew the data and make the average size even larger, as it is 30 acres, but will include park space. This means that this site is almost half the size of an average school plot size for new builds. 4.5 acres is just too small for this addition that we're asking. Here's a simulated image that shows what the high school could look like when viewed from quickly, although the parking lot will need to be much bigger. And the reason for that is kids come to the high school, they drive, they share. There's going to be a lot more parking required. What happens is they go on the street, there's going to be less visibility for pedestrians. It's a secondary issue that is getting created. Values of homes in West Cochrane will be affected, as an open green space is a huge attraction to future buyers that are looking for established neighborhoods with character. Homeowners over the last 8 decades have collectively spent many thousands of dollars renovating and making decisions on their property to emphasize the view and increase the value of their properties. You can certainly expect portables to be added in, but the entire new school built closer than others in Cochrane seemed highly unlikely in such a small area, especially when it's already utilized by students and residents. So we encourage the town to continue working and finding a good solution that is meaningful for the property values home, keeping green space open and free, and also provide Francophone community with a better space to build a school that the entire town can be proud of. This is what students and the residents deserve. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Templeman. I don't see any questions. Thank you. Brandon McKinnon?
Hello, my name is Brandon, and today I want to take a closer look at enrollment trends at Notre Dame de Valley, or NDV, and explain why the sense of urgency presented by the Franco-Sud School Board may not entirely be supported by the data. The figures in this presentation use data from the Alberta government's open data portal and reflect preliminary numbers for 2024 to 2025. In fact, the actual enrollment for this year, as presented by the NDV during their June 2nd information session, is even lower than shown in the preliminary numbers in these first few figures. While it can be difficult to interpret the data at first glance, within each grade, a closer look reveals a consistent trend. Students are not being retained as they move up through the grades. To better understand the trends within each grade, I have applied linear best fit lines across the grades. The most recent declines are emphasized in ECS, grade 1, grade 2, and grade 3 numbers. Interestingly, you'll notice some increases in the higher grades. This is due to larger ECS cohorts from earlier years progressing through the school system. But this masks a deeper problem with retention. To truly understand what's happening, we need to look at how the individual cohorts are performing over time. So using all of the available data from the open data portal, a cohort analysis was completed. Since 2016, the size of each new ECS cohort has steadily declined. Furthermore, each cohort continues to lose students year after year as they move up in grades. This pattern of attrition is consistent, and it begins right at ECS. Is NDV's retention unique? Let's look at some division-wide trends. No, it's not. This graph, pulled directly from the Franco-Sud 2025 to 2028 capital plan, shows that retention from grade 6 to grade 12 is a division-wide issue. Out of 10 schools that offer education up to grade 12, this pattern of enrollment drop is widespread. In other words, the challenges we're seeing at NDV are not unique. They reflect a broader issue across the entire Franco-Sud division. Now let's talk projections. There are discrepancies between enrollment numbers reported in Franco-Sud's capital plans and those published on the open data portal. For instance, while Franco-Sud projected increased enrollment up to 325 students by 2024 to 2025 in their 2021 to 2024 capital plan, the reality has fallen well short of that at 214 students, which is still 25 students short of the school's capacity. Furthermore, the numbers reported in the capital plan for 2020 to 2021 were overestimated by 34 students. In fact, the most generous projection we can reasonably make if we ignore the division-wide retention issues experienced in the later grades and substitute the average class size for grades 5 to 8 into grades 9 to 12, we get a total enrollment of about 268 students. When we fit a logistic curve, we can see that the trend remains well below what's needed to justify urgent expansion in a short period of time. Even Madame Melissa Martel, director of EDV, seems to acknowledge this. In an interview published in the May 29th Cochrane Eagle, she stated that the school would not drastically increase student volume and that it's going to be the same kids they have now, but in a different building. However, if the school were to be built, at some point in the future, it would reach capacity since schools are not built with short-term goals in mind. Especially then, the increased students, traffic, buses, paired with limited field and sports spaces would make the site very unsuitable for the students and the residents of the affected neighborhoods. So what can we conclude? First, retention issues at Franco-Sud are not exclusively due to insufficient programming offered at the NDV school, as this trend is consistent for all grades and schools across the division. Second, there is no data to support the claim that urgent expansion is needed right now. This gives us, as a community, the time and opportunity to find a site that's truly suitable. Third, if retention is the real problem here, then building a small, under-equipped school without appropriate amenities like proper fields or space for future growth will only make the problem worse. Fourth, I want to emphasize how unsuitable this site is by saying that the majority of the points people will have presented tonight about why this would not be a suitable location would not even be relevant to most, if not all, of the new proposed school sites within Cochrane. As demonstrated, the urgent need for other schools in Cochrane does not apply to Franco-Sud's NDV school, and an additional school built for the students attending NDV will not alleviate the stress on other schools within Cochrane. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McKinnon. I don't see any questions for you. Neil Egsgaard. See him coming from outside.
Good evening, Council, Mayor. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. There's a lot of parents here with kids, so I imagine a bunch of them are going to have to leave before they get a chance to speak because they have to put their kids to bed. So obviously I'm in support of the Franco-Sud School. If you could go to the next slide. So why my family cares? So our kids are Notre Dame. We have a kid in grade 1 and a kid in maternelle, so kindergarten. We want the school because it allows the kids who they're with to stay, our kids and their friends to stay together when they go through school. Right now you have a lot of kids, almost all of the kids have to leave the Franco-Sud schools because there is no option and they have to go and put pressure on the other schools and potentially leave their classmates as well because Franco-Sud does not have a high school. By putting the high school in this location, you're keeping all the transportation, all that time for the parents, all the busing, everything in the same location rather than moving it around to another spot. As I mentioned before, I think this is really important. The Franco-Sud is a public school, just like any of the other public boards. It's a public school system, and it doesn't have a high school. It's the only one that does not have a high school in Cochrane. Our family is bilingual. Their grandparents are French, and having the ability to be able to speak and be engaged in the second language of Canada allows them to communicate with their family and their friends at home, at their home, who do not speak English. So it's really important as far as our connection with the family in order to be able to have them educated in French. So in order to build a school, like any big infrastructure project, it's really, really, really hard. So you need a need in the community. You can see the other ones on there: priority, location, funding, and town support. And we're here to talk about the town support. So the need for the school, we have 300 new K-8 students every year because Cochrane is growing really, really fast. And you can go to the next one as well. So this is talking about the need. The growth in town of Cochrane is projected, right now we're at 38,000, the most conservative projection from the town of Cochrane in 6 years when this school could be open is 47,000, 9,000 increase, 24% increase, and along with that comes a whole lot of students who need spaces in schools. So this is showing the current usage at all of the schools, and you can see that we are over capacity except for the École Notre Dame is K-8, and it's servicing some of the high school students, but a lot leave. The other ones are over capacity. So the Bow Valley High School is in construction right now. I live right near there, but even when it's done, it's at still at 97% capacity. So we are a rapidly growing town and we don't have enough schools and we need schools. So the second part was, so that was the need. The second part is a priority. The school board has this as a priority. So we actually have a school board who wants to build another school and is ready to go on building another school. For funding, schools are expensive. You need to have money. There is money available now. This money, once it's gone, it's gone. There may be more money in the future, but this money is gone and irreplaceable. If we don't build the school now and try for the funding now, then will be more competition for more locations for more schools. We have an opportunity to ask for funding for school in Cochrane that we desperately need, and the Franco-Sud is ready to make that ask, provided we have the support from the town. So this is a site at Notre Dame. You've seen a few other pictures of it. This is the biggest issue, is about the location. It makes a lot of sense to have a Francophone high school beside an existing elementary school. If we choose another school site in Cochrane, then we're consuming another school site in Cochrane. And that school has to go somewhere else. So in 15 years, do we put this is zoned as a school site and Cochrane needs school sites. So in 10 years, do we put an English language school here? Do we put a Catholic high school here? What other public school goes in this space? We don't have enough space for schools. So to me, it makes a lot of sense that you have the Francophone high school beside the high school, and the other existing spaces beside other schools are for those boards. Cochrane is really fast growing. There's a lot of places in Cochrane. I'm one of the people affected by it. The south border of my home right now is a big field, and it's being graded and turned into duplexes or townhomes. The duplex is right beside me. There's a lot of people undergoing that same problem where the lands beside them are green spaces, but they're zoned for another use. The town of Cochrane did that zoning in order to allow for the growth and to meet the needs. And it sucks for everybody. It sucks for us, and it's a really hard situation to be in, but it is the result of the growth of Cochrane.
Neil, you're out of time. If you could.
Yeah, I'm done. This is it.
Okay.
So just thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. The only thing we need is town support. Please support the Cochrane Francophone Secondary Public School. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. No questions. Lisa Hill.
Am I just up and down to move slides? Perfect. Hi, I'm Lisa Hill. I'm a long-term West Terrace resident. We have been in West Terrace for over 25 years. I have a background in civil engineering. My specialty is in private site development, and I've looked at this through the lens of due diligence, as I would for any project that came onto my desk. And the red flag for me is site suitability and whether there's actually room in West Terrace. So as you know, we've got a 4.5 acre parcel. It's irregularly shaped. And we've got some site constraints that concern me, specifically the railway setback. The railway setback is 30 meters from the property line to the building face. And so based on that, I went on Google Earth, what does 30 meters look like? That little yellow line that you can see is 29 meters. So I've put this orange swath showing what a 30-meter setback on this site actually looks like so that we know what we have for building area. Site access is another concern for me. We've got 190 meters from the east property line of the Notre Dame Valley School up to the laneway. And we've got 3 access points there. We've got the bus loop in, the bus loop out, and we've got the access to the current gravelly lot on this site. Totally make a turning lane work where we can have an entrance coming into the property and share an access for exiting the property. It would align nicely with the intersection, which I think that's a great solution for that. However, it does cause a bit of concern for site, or for space on the site and how much land that actually takes up. The Franco-Sud School Board has indicated that they would put in a 15-meter setback from the back fence to the school. So I've added that in here as well, just to give you an idea of what that actually looks like and how much buildable space we still have left on this property. We've got our municipal setbacks. We know that that'll be sorted out at the DP stage. It's not really an issue. We're looking at 3s and 6s. They're exceeding that. That doesn't concern me at all. But when we have a school that's comparable in size to what exists there already, where is it going to fit? And it's blocking, it has to be up against the fence line. There's nowhere else to put it. We add in a bus loop in, an extension of the bus loop in, connect it to, bring it back down. We don't have any parking space on this site. And I totally respect the school board's position that we're going to be moving teachers from one school to the other, but we're talking about long-term build out here. We're not talking about opening day solutions. We're talking about 15, 20 years from now, we have a full at capacity school where we don't have any parking available. And that's just staff parking. Students are going to drive. There's nowhere for student parking. They're going to be on the road. I think this site for secondary school is inadequate. It does not have enough space to provide the amenities that the school is going to need. So my point's short and sweet. The site constraints are limiting the buildable space. That 30-meter setback from the railway is a real concern for where the placement of the building can be. Shared driveway access, I don't see that as a problem, but we just don't have any parking space on site when we put these in. So that's all for me. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your presentation. I don't see any questions.
Perfect, thank you.
Danielle Bacon.
Everyone hesitates.
I just paused and you filled it. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having us here. My name is Danielle Bacon, and I live in the cul-de-sac next to Notre-Dame-des-Vallées. I left the calculations to the engineers and those people. I'm going to debunk some of the things that have been said online and some things that have been said about the residents and the use of the green space. I'm French-Canadian, raised on the North Shore of Montreal. Every day I work with the judicial system throughout Canada to preserve the French language. So making this about the French, preserving their French or being again anti-French, having an anti-French sentiment is not what this is about at all. The residents of West Terrace have been accused of this, but I assure you that I'm opposed to it, and so are the residents, and it has nothing to do with that. It's not the issue mentioned here and by some actually out there. No one is opposed to this school, just opposed to this site, requested when there are more appropriate ones. One main issue is the loss of green space, a green space used by the community after school hours, on weekends, and all summer. Probably used more so by the community than the students at Notre-Dame-des-Vallées themselves, because they only use it for a set number of times. And to the parents online, using excuses like stepping in poop as a reason for to build their school. My kids have been playing there for 3 years. The school is, the field is used by everyone, and they have yet to come back with poop on their shoes. By using that logic, why don't we, dig up Midford Ponds? I saw some there the other day. Now, one of the reasons Franco-Sud and Notre-Dame-des-Vallées aren't aware and frankly not concerned by the community's use of that space is that 93% of their students are bussed in and not part of this community, as per Franco-Sud's statistics. We would be tearing up a community green space for a gigantic building that's used by them only during certain school hours and not even throughout the year. The whole year. Their only argument is the convenience of having their kids at the same school, even though kids all over the country go to different schools when aging out of one. And no one sees this as a problem, save for NDV and Franco-Sud. I would like to respond to the parent online and someone here earlier from Franco-Sud, saying that we have a NIMBY, not in my backyard attitude. It's as much our constitutional right to voice our concern as it is yours to have a French school. This same parent accuses the residents of disguising this attitude with concern for kids. I'm concerned for the kids, yours and mine. I have a son at Mitford and a daughter who will be there in 2027. With the French immersion flowing in from Glenbow, if all schools fill up along with this proposed building, there would be over 1,000 children on that field. On that widely reduced space. Keep that number in mind, because throughout these presentations tonight, just imagine 1,000 kids playing on there, playing soccer, playing football, and other sports where they would barely be able to run. Sharing the green space. There's been no community outreach in the 11 years that Notre-Dame-des-Vallées has been there, and we are expected as residents who live there on a full-time basis to be bulldozed by this. They mentioned that it will be for community use. Community gardens, where? There won't be any more room for them, and why haven't they been put in the past 11 years? We would be letting go of a free community space, and in return have to rent out their facilities, as they do now with their current building. Every meeting with Franco Sud has been sung into a different tune. Their own pictures of the lot are misleading and cropped out Mitford Middle School to make it look bigger and mislead people into thinking there would only be 2 buildings on that site. Basically, when they speak of community, they only speak of theirs, with no regard for ours. That was clear during the meeting, where they went as far as belittling other communities because theirs is more special and more refined than any others. Some of the parents say, and I quote, "Well, it's only for a few students. There won't be 275 students." But that's the capacity they're asking for. Then why build a school bigger than the present one, which is slated at 240 capacity and only has 214 schools? Either way, the space is not adequate for a high school. There's way more space to build at a proper high school in the municipal lot next to St. Timothy's High School. Yet we got 3 different versions during those meetings as to why it was not explored. To conclude, Franco Sud at that meeting put the blame on the town of Cochrane and said this lot was the leftover thrown at them by the town in the presentation. We still don't know who came up with this idea of putting the building there or who wants it there. And because the tune changes with every meeting that we've been to, and we keep getting the runaround, we come out of meetings with more questions and frustrations. Town of Cochrane, finding any nook and cranny for developers to build on seems possible. Finding an adequate space for a high school should also be. If the town of Cochrane, Franco Sud, Notre-Dame-des-Vallées, including the parents, only see convenience here, shame on you for not caring about the adequate facilities and space for children and teen development, as well as our community green space. Isn't it the town of Cochrane's 20-year open space master plan and envisioned Cochrane to have a green space within 400 meters of each of our homes? This would definitely go against it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Don't see any questions. Amy Baseman?
Good evening, Mayor, councilors, and members of the community. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. My name is Amy Weissman, and I currently serve as the Vice President of the Parent Council at École Notre-Dame-des-Vallées. But tonight, I stand before you simply as a proud and concerned resident of the town of Cochrane. Over the past 12 years, I've witnessed firsthand the incredible transformation of this community. The growth has been rapid and the changes often significant, having impacted nearly every corner of their town, including my own backyard. Like many of you, my family and I have had to adapt to these shifts, and at times without the proper opportunity to voice our concerns or opposition. The truth is, no matter where you live in Cochrane, whether you've been here for decades or just a few years, none of us are immune to change when development is approved. I have sat in this very chamber many times during public hearings, always quietly, always on the sidelines, because I felt like someone else's story was more powerful than mine. But tonight I stand before you asking Town Council to listen to what our community needs. Over recent weeks and now months, I've seen and heard suggestions that our community should simply join in with other existing schools. While I understand and even appreciate the creativity and concerns that some citizens are bringing forward, many of the suggestions are missing a critical point. The Francophone community supports the development in this proposed location. For us, École Notre-Dame-des-Vallées is much more than a school. It's an essential nucleus of our community, the heart around which we connect, grow, and learn together. It is not just an educational institution, it's a cultural, social, and community hub. Currently, NDV operates in a building originally designed for students from kindergarten to grade 8. And while we are not yet over capacity in terms of numbers, the age we serve has dramatically expanded. We are now welcoming students as young as 3 years of age in our pre-kindergarten program, up to young adults in grade 12, up to 18 years of age. Imagine, if you will, toddlers and teenagers sharing the same bathrooms, hallways, and common spaces. It is not an ideal scenario, and I commend our current administration for the challenges that they face daily. Our high school students do not have equal opportunity amongst their peers due to not having the proper programming opportunities in our school. NDV is a Francophone school, yes, but our impact and involvement extends beyond language and cultural education. Every year, our students participate in the Youth in Philanthropy Initiative, where they choose and advocate for a local organization to receive a $5,000 grant. Last year, this grant went to Helping Hands Society of Cochrane, and this year it will be Cochrane Pregnancy Care Center who will receive this donation. These projects teach civic engagement and give back to the very community we can all call home. We also help fill a critical gap in Cochrane's infrastructure. Our gymnasium is regularly booked and used by local associations, as you have heard this evening. A second gym would ease this burden further and benefit countless Cochrane sports and associations struggling to find proper training space. It's been disheartening to witness the spread of misinformation online, such as comments and manipulated images that don't reflect a lot of the facts. Francosude has not confirmed that this will be a 2-level site. Also, a comparison of other school board based on the school that are bigger in terms of sizing acres, those schools also hold double the amount of students. So it only reflects that we need a smaller space because of the smaller amount of students that we have. I urge Town Council to make your decision based on truth and verified information and not speculation or personal biases. Some have raised concern about access route to the proposed site, yet suggestions to move our school to another area such as Sunset, which only has one access point currently as well. They also have double the population of West Valley and 2 schools, including one that greets approximately 900 students alone. This doesn't seem to reflect a consistent logic. In fact, these suggestions appear to be motivated by self-interest rather to the collective greater good of our town of Cochrane. As our town continues to grow, we are all affected and have a joint responsibility in how that growth is managed. As far as for green spaces, while the field behind NDV has been enjoyed by the community for years, luckily residents of West Valley, West Terrace, and West Point have ample access to beautiful public spaces such as Mitford Park, Pond, the Zero Gravity Skate Park, 3 off-leash dog parks, the river pathways, and multiple playgrounds, including the one at NDV, which will remain open for the community. In closing, I urge you to make a decision that reflects the broader needs of Cochrane. This school is a necessary and strategic addition to our town's current infrastructure. Thank you for everyone's time.
Okay, thank you, Amy. No questions. Bridget Breck.
Members of council, my name is Bridget Breck, and I am mom to 3 little girls who currently attend NDV in grades 4, 2, and kindergarten. I am also a member of both the parent committees for NDV and our Francophone preschool, Les Petits Abeilles. I wish to speak today in support of the proposed development of a new school on the West Terrace field. I believe this project represents a vital and forward-thinking investment in our town's future, one that serves not only the Francophone student population, but the broader Cochrane community as well. The demand for a Francophone high school in Cochrane is not theoretical. It is urgent and it is growing. Our current school infrastructure was not designed for the current growth of both our elementary and high schools. As it is, our high school students miss out on important resources due to a lack of space. Establishing a well-equipped local Francophone high school in Cochrane affirms the town's commitment to supporting educational equity, linguistic diversity, and constitutional rights afforded to French language education in Alberta. Unlike building on the town's periphery or repurposing land adjacent to undercapacity schools, which may involve lengthy rezoning processes, acquisition negotiations, and additional infrastructure investment, the West Terrace site is municipally owned, zoned for school use, and ready for responsible development. Using existing greenfield land within our urban footprint is environmentally preferable to encouraging sprawl. Smart infill projects like this preserve more untouched land elsewhere. The West Terrace Field, while cherished, has always been designated as a school site. It is not being taken away, but merely reimagined in a way that can still serve as community space. With thoughtful planning, including landscaping, shared green areas, and community access outside of school hours, this project can continue to offer recreational value to residents, just as other school fields across town do. Concerns about traffic and safety are valid and solvable. Traffic congestion exists near every school. With collaboration between the school board, town planners, and residents, targeted solutions can be implemented, such as staggered start times, dedicated drop-off zones, crosswalk upgrades, and traffic calming measures. These are not reasons to abandon this project, but prompts to ensure that the design process includes community consultation and robust mitigation strategies. If we reject West Terrace as a site based solely on proximity to homes, green space use, or traffic fears, then every centrally located school site becomes untenable. This sets a precedence that could halt essential community infrastructure. The reality is that schools are an intrinsic part of vibrant, livable neighborhoods. They bring life, stability, and intergenerational connection. Blocking development in pursuit of a perfect location risks delaying or denying a school indefinitely. Before I close, I want to express my heartfelt thanks to the residents of West Terrace who have shared their concerns, not just about a location, but about our children and the future of our town. I hear you. I hear your worries, your frustration, your love for your neighborhood. And I respect that deeply because we love this neighborhood too. We, the families of Notre-Dame-des-Vallées, aren't simply asking for a high school on the West Terrace Field. We're imploring it. Because this isn't just about land, this is about home. To move our children from this place, from the only school community many of them have ever known, would be to uproot them from the very soil that has nourished their identity, their friendships, and their sense of belonging. Notre-Dame-des-Vallées is not just a school. It is not just a community. We are a people bound by language, heritage, and shared values. We are a family. Notre-Dame-des-Vallées is the heart of Cochrane's Francophone community, and a heart cannot be torn from its place without deep consequences. So let me be clear. We do not want this school anywhere but West Terrace. Not in Sunset, not in a new subdivision, not in a location that breaks what we have spent decades building. We will not let our children be pulled away from the community that has raised them. We will not allow the heart of our community to be scattered. West Terrace is our home too. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Right on time. Let's go to Mark Goulet.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, for this great opportunity. This is a great privilege to be participating in this exercise of democracy at work. It's just something that I feel very privileged to be part of. And I wish to thank also everybody else who's speaking tonight. I am a parent, and I've been a volunteer at NDV for the last 9 years, so of course I will be speaking in favor of the proposed school on the land adjacent to the current elementary school. So as people have mentioned, and you know, we've had a few people talking, so some of the points I'll make will probably be repetition here. I'll try to limit that, but I'll highlight the ones that I think are important. The school is not quite yet to numeric full capacity, but as the last two speakers mentioned, given the fact that it was designed to go from kindergarten to grade 8, and that we're now, as of 2018, have become have started to welcome high school students, we're having to, we basically are running out of space in terms of individual classrooms for that number of classes. So we've used up everything in the school that could have possibly been used, and there's been lots of creativity put in play by the school administration. You've heard about the washrooms. I believe someone mentioned that. So you've got children from, actually there's a pre-kindergarten as well in the school. We're all trying to share space between these 3-year-old and you've got 17-year-old kids in the same space. So that's what's creating the overcrowding issue here. That's how I think we can best describe it. And that situation has been happening for a few years. My son is in grade 9 now, and for the last 4 or 5 years, we've seen his friends leaving the school for various reasons. Sometimes people move away, sometimes people have needs that are better fit or that are better matched in other schools. But in many cases, it's because the school is just lacking the opportunities that a proper high school could offer. So this is the main reason why I believe Franco Sud is charged with this project right now. I would say, just from my estimation, that every year we lose 20% of our students by attrition. It's tough to put a number on exactly how many we would keep if we'd have the high school, but if you just assume that we'd keep half, we would now have twice the high school population that we have. So you've heard we're at about 60, 70 students. So we'd be, just in the years since my child has been of junior high years, this is where we would be today. And every year that we delay the project of getting a new school, we're losing more of our kids that are moving, by the way, most of the time, to other already overcrowded schools here in Cochrane. So I think Brigitte just mentioned it. Building a Francophone high school in Cochrane is going to not only address the need of the Francophone in our community, it's going to help the entire community just by this ripple effect of creating more high school space. That was basically all the points I had to make, so I really thank you for listening to me and for the time.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Thank you. Liam de Guzman.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Liam de Guzman. 10 years ago, our family moved from Montreal to Cochrane. We came here without any support from our families back in our hometown, and being Filipinos who embrace family, it was hard. Fortunately, we were welcomed warmly by Cochrane and by NDV. I started coming to the school since preschool, and I am now in grade 6, wanting to continue my education in French. Residents living in the school area are concerned about increased traffic. Increased traffic would be very minimal, and there is not a lot of traffic except during certain times. The students from both schools would just be using the same bus system. Limited parking is not a problem, since the parking lots would be used for staff during the day or for drop-offs and pickups. The high schoolers prefer to use the free bus system instead of using their cars, so they don't use any of the parking spots. If additional cars are parked on the street, it might mean the school is hosting a school event. We would like to have the school to benefit all students. Right now, the current schedule overlaps. That basically means high school students could be doing a test, studying, while another elementary class could be transitioning to another area of the school. This can be disruptive for the ones in class and for the ones who are possibly working in the hallways. The school is not properly equipped to provide certain specialized sports, classes, or clubs like CTS woodwork, or a proper gym. Currently, the available clubs are the ones that can be done in places without special equipment. With the amount of students, the washrooms are limited. There's not a lot of space for older students to relax. They have to relax in the hallways, which is not ideal. And the hallways are busy during certain times, like at lunchtime or at the end of the day. Next year, the school is having problem putting certain classes in classrooms since there is a lack of them. For the last couple of years, my class size has been going down for those specific reasons or because we are too small of a class. We once had more than 20 kids. We are now only 13 students. Parents have chosen to send their children to other schools as they thought they wouldn't have been ready for junior high. If the students change schools, it may cause overcrowding in another middle school or worsen it. Moving schools does mean you can lose your French if you don't speak it often. If the new school is not built on that land, Cochrane may build something else. Cochrane is growing, and there are many things they can build on that land, like a senior home, a commercial lot, or town facilities. This would guarantee that it will be busy compared to a high school, not even counting to what happens inside the school. Building the school would come with many benefits, like allowing the whole NDV building for our elementary students to use, a variety of job creation, and keeping and maybe bringing back students who left, and an exceptionally improved school environment for everyone. To me, having a French high school is something that is hard to explain. It would be extraordinary and exciting to attend a proper French high school in Cochrane. It makes you feel different and stand out of the crowd in a good way. Since I was in preschool, my brother has been in the same school as me. I really love that community school experience. It would just be unfortunate if I had to be in a totally different building far from where my brother is. We are not the only family that agrees. Almost every student in our school has a sibling that is in the school with them, and they would most likely feel that way if it wasn't built. Their parents wouldn't like the idea of sending their kids to different schools. Our school really does give a lot to the community, which means having another school with practically the same students would most likely double the amount of donations to our community. And the school does want to rent it out to other groups for them to use it after school hours or plan free events for everyone. Many families agree that building on St. Tim's land would break the core connection between students and staff. The school and our class are like our second family, so why would we want to be separated? We should choose to keep everyone together. I believe that building this new school is ideal for our future high schoolers. There are many students, staff, parents who strongly support the construction of the new school. Not only would it give us more space, it would increase the number of bilinguals in Cochrane. I would love to see more kids who continue their education in French farther than grade 12. Thank you so much for listening. Let's all do it for the students, for the future, and for the future of our community. On behalf of the students, we all hope to hear a positive response for the future in our school's Francophone education.
Okay, Liam, I think we have a couple questions, but before we get there, I just want to say, well done, young man.
Thank you.
Councillor Federico?
I don't have a question, but you have an incredible future ahead of you in public speaking, so well done.
Thank you.
Councillor Flowers?
I too wanted to comment on your presentation. Well done, and can't wait to see what you do next.
Councillor McFadden?
The mayor told us we couldn't clap, otherwise I would have clapped. So, but yes, you did an excellent job on your presentation, so thank you.
I don't think anyone has any serious questions for you. I just want to say, well done. Thank you. Next up, we've got Liam. Oh, sorry, that was Liam. How can I forget Liam? I didn't check you off. Alex Parody, and that would make us halfway through the list, and we'll take a break after Alex here, 5-minute break.
It's going to be hard to talk after Liam. Be ready for some strong French accent. So, dear Mayor, Member of Town Council, my name is Alexandre Paradis, and I live in the West Valley neighborhood of Cochrane for over 10 years now. I am also the father of 3 children who attend the local Francophone school. I want to share my perspective on the urgent need for a new Francophone school in our community and why I am in favor. The need for a new school and the current challenge are evident. Our Francophone school is experiencing significant growth. Year after year, we welcome more students, which speak to the attractiveness of our French education and the enthusiasm of all the families of NDV. However, our current infrastructure have become insufficient to meet this growing demand and to provide an optimal learning environment. Currently, our school is full. Common areas are under pressure, and our existing amenity no longer allow us to offer the full range of program and activity that our students deserve. Investing in this new infrastructure is not a luxury, but a pressing necessity for the continuity and the quality of Francophone education. This project is also incredibly important for the development of Cochrane Francophone community. It will strengthen our ability to live and thrive in French, helping to preserve our language and culture in a meaningful way. But the impact of this school goes well beyond education. The proposed school will include a modern gymnasium accessible to the entire community, offering much-needed space for sport and recreation. This site also presents opportunity for outdoor development that will promote health, wellness, and connection among residents of all ages. I believe this school would contribute significantly to the social, economic, and cultural development of Cochrane. It is not only an investment in our children, but in the future of a town as a whole. And by using this available site, we are preserving other school lands across Cochrane for future generation and broader community need. In my view, this project is a win for everyone in Cochrane. Thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you. Don't see any questions. So at this point, we'll take a 5-minute break. Council, we come back at 8:06. 15 speakers signed up so far. Okay, we're going to call the hearing back to order, please. We've got Chantel Roussel next. Hopefully I got your last name correct.
I've heard worse. That's all I'm gonna say. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. My name is Chantal Roussel. I'm the vice principal and a teacher at École Notre-Dame-des-Vallées. I'm also a Cochrane resident, a proud Francophone, a mother of 3, 2 of whom are successfully graduate from Francophone High School. My experience gave me a special appreciation for quality Francophone education, and that is what I care about most. It is why I'm here tonight to express my full support for granting the land next to our school to the Franco-Sud School Board so we can move forward with building a much-needed Francophone high school in our community. Our school is overcrowded. The number might say otherwise, but if you walk into our school, you will see the library is a kindergarten class. You will see office being used as classroom for high school students. You will see offices that are not office, they're places to put stuff, like a closet, thank you. So next year, like it's a puzzle, where are we gonna put our extra grade 1 class? We don't have all the answers. So the numbers may say we're not at capacity, but when you're in the school, you'll see otherwise. This land request is not about luxury, it's about basic, fair, and condition for our students. They deserve real classrooms and equal access to learning spaces, just like their peers in English school, for them to have quality education. Keeping our students on the same site allows for collaboration, mentorship, and a stronger sense of connection, all fundamentals values that we foster at NDV. I know you've heard this before, but if you are within the school and you talk with our school student, right now we have 60 students from grade 7 to 12. 1 occasionally drives, the rest take the bus, walk, or bike. Also, there's another concern that's been raised is the size of the school. And let me be clear, this is not a big campus as others would like you to believe, like in the pictures we've seen. Last year, we had our first graduate. This year, we will have 2 graduates. If we look for context, the biggest high school, Francophone in Calgary, last year, they had 50 graduates. Across the 9 Francophone high school, this year, there's 78 graduates. I went to Chestermere grad last week, just Chestermere, it was 300 students. We're nowhere close to those big schools. Even with Cochrane's growth, our school will stay small and community focused. This land is essential to meeting the needs of our students, not just now, but for years to come. It allows us to grow responsibly without increasing traffic or changing the character of our neighborhood. Let's invest in our youth, let's support equitable education, and let's take this important step forward for the strength, continuity, and future of our Francophone community. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. No questions. Etienne Saint-Jacques.
Wasn't too bad. Thank you. So my name is Etienne Saint-Jacques. I am a Cochrane resident of 10 years. I live in West Valley, and we chose West Valley for its proximity to NDV. When we decided to have kids, we looked at all the neighborhoods, and we're like, oh, French school here. So I do understand, you know, the people that say that it might decrease the property of the value of their property. But for us, it was a factor that chooses. So I'm sure more Francophone families might decide that they want a house in West Terrace, and that might increase their value of their property. Second, I wanted to speak about all the things that the people have said, and I love it because the people that spoke against the project actually did all the work for me. They demonstrated that the high school for NDV is the only school that you can build that because it's such a small site. It's true, it's a small site, but because our community is small, we have small needs, we need a small school that will fit. That site is zoned for school. You will not be able to build another school there than our high school. It is needed. Another gentleman showed that our people are leaving. When we enlisted our kid in the school, we said, yeah, but he's gonna leave. He's not gonna attend a high school there because they don't have all the resources that other schools have. When I heard about this project, I went, whoa, 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 let's change our mind. My son's gonna go to high school in French. We need this, and that's why people are leaving. It's because they don't have the sports team, they don't have access to the clubs, they don't have all the stuff that other high school have access to, and that's why we're asking for this. I live in West Valley. I walk my son to school almost every day. I don't see the traffic problem that people are talking about. Yeah, there is traffic. There's traffic going up to the high school. My wife works downtown Cochrane. You guys know that street corner, and when all the buses go, you might be there for 20 minutes. We're not asking for more buses for now. There might be 2 or 3 later in 10 to 15 years. I think, although not the perfect solution, I think this is a good solution, and I think we should go for it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Kelly Zawada?
Mr. Mayor, Council, 30 years ago, my family and I took a vacation to Alberta. And through our vacation, it brought us into Cochrane. True story, I got lost. Coming on 16th Avenue, said Old Banff Coach Road, so I thought, oh, it's going to go to Banff. But anyway, so we came down the hill into Cochrane, and we said, if we ever want to live someplace or move from BC, this is the place to come, Cochrane. Upon our return to our house in Chilliwack, there on the door was a notice from the city of Chilliwack saying that our property was to be rezoned to make room for a school expansion. Our lot then was 60 feet wide by 250 feet long. We had fruit trees, we had a garden. I think my son Jordan knows you. Yeah, he played in those trees. And we were basically forced out. They said, if you don't sell your land now, when it does get annexed, it's gonna be a lot less of value, which was roughly $125,000. So there we just made a decision. We're gonna move to Alberta because we don't want our backyard to become a wall. And tonight, I've seen a lot of great presentations here. I applaud everybody for what they have presented in terms of the pros and the cons. I've been a Cochraneite now for almost 30 years. Years ago, I had a conversation with then Mayor Ken Beck. I was with Cochrane Fire Emergency Services then, and Ken and I would go for coffee as well as some of the other guys, and we were looking at how Cochrane was going to change over the next 20 years. And Ken said, Kelly, you just wait. You're going to see a big change. But it didn't deter us from staying. We thought, we're gonna hold out, we're gonna plant our roots, and we've been in West Terrace area now for 11 years. Love it there. We love the green spaces around us. We love the elbow room that we get. We know that there was gonna be some challenges with traffic, with Quigley Drive, in times with expansion. As Fireside was developed, as Riversong was developed, and we saw the houses just go straight up and compact, we went, wow, we're so happy that we're here in West Terrace. And I think to drive the point home, some of the speakers here tonight said, if there is an emergency situation, it's just a matter of time when. And the more people that you put at risk in that area, for example, school, it's going to create a lot of challenges for emergency personnel, for the egress factors as well. I mean, we always play out scenarios. What would happen if there was a derailment in Cochrane, whether it be downtown, whether it be on the east end or west end. You never want those things to happen, but you're trying to be prepared for them. And I think I've seen, and a lot of us seen, a congestion over the last 10, 15 years, both on Highway 22, the 1A, local, Glenbow Drive, Quigley. So while I know that, a lot of the parents would love to have a school, a French school, an addition, I personally just don't think it's the right place. There are other alternatives, and what I have brought to my attention tonight, and I think we need to exercise, or they need to exercise, those other alternatives. I think once Highway 22 1A interchange is complete, I think that there'll be ample room to access Sunset and possibly a site up by St. Tim's School. Right now, we're just feeling a little pushed in. Our community is shrinking, and I think that from what I've seen tonight, that I think it's just not the right place to build a school. So, thank you for your attention, and I just want to say it hits a little close to home because it happened to my family and I, but we're proud to be Cochranites, and we're staying here for a long time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kelly. Lavon?
I spoke for her too.
Okay. So that's Kelly and Lavon. Jennifer, I can't read your writing. Oh, you got it.
Okay.
Yeah. You tell me how to say it.
So it's Jennifer Patoine.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes perfect
It's
sense
very
now.
French. Sorry, I'm going to open that here. Sorry. So first of all, I want to apologize for my attire. As you can see, I do not ever attend council meeting. But this is too important for me not to be here tonight. I moved in Cochrane 5 years ago. During COVID, I was pregnant with my child, who is now 4.5. And I want to say that, obviously, for everyone, it's been a tough ride. For me, it's been tough. COVID, new mom, no friends, no family, being new in a new town, obviously. And it took me 2 years before I kind of got my life back. And this is when I started working at the school. So starting working at NDV brought me meaningful work, but more than that, it brought me community. For the first time in my life, and I'm 31 years old, I feel like I belong. And no one knows that. I'm telling you tonight, it is a school that I will give everything for the kids, for the teachers, for my principal, for everyone. They got me, and I'll be there until the end. This is more than a job for me. So I've heard a lot of people say, in opposition, say that there's no rush, there's no urgency, and to build a new school. Unfortunately, they do not know our reality. The school is overcrowded, like many other people said. We need to plan this. We need this plan to go through. Like one of my coworkers, Mr. Stéphane Delouf, mentioned, if the plan is delayed, it's going to take 6 to 8 years before we get another chance at actually making the school, high school work. This is not good for us. This is not good for our kids. We just need to go through, and it's not just because it's urgent that we're going to take whatever plot of land we have. It's because it's the best for us. It's the best for the kids. It's the best for the family. It's the best for the community of Cochrane, just because of what we said, the buses and all that. I think there was a lot of things said, and I don't want to repeat myself. So I think that the well-being of our students and our staff is on the line. Every day we're facing challenges due to the space. For example, my vice principal, Madame Chantal, who talked earlier, she doesn't have an office. She is working in a little like closets, basically. And every day I have to take her out of the closet, which is her office, to put people in there because I have psychologists that come to the school. We have occupational therapists. I have a list here. Let me find it. We have social worker, counselors, inclusion teams. We have sometimes 6 specialists coming to the school at the same time because they just have to go through it all, and we have no space to put them. So they need to see kids one-on-one, they need a separate space, and we do not have the space to accommodate them. This is a big problem. Me, my vice principal, and my principal have to deal with this on a daily basis. So this is not something the parents know. This is not something the kids know. This is not something even the teachers see, because we make it happen. We pull little strings, we move people around. The students, especially the high school students, are affected because they are the ones also who don't have a local. They're just kind of pushed around, and sometimes we mix classes to make things happen. This is just not doable. This is just not livable. We need the change now. Actually, yesterday. And I think the last thing I want to say is that a lot of what I heard tonight is not in my backyard. And this breaks my heart because I think that the future of our kids is more important. I mean, this is my position because I see them every day, but I also hear that the homeowners have fears and the values of their house, and I sympathize. But for me, working in a school, I mean, my kids, obviously, are the priority. Thank you for hearing me, and yeah, we'll see how that goes.
Okay, thank you. I think your secret's out. Madeline DeGlow? Did I get that right?
Hello, my name is Madeline, and I am representing the 9th grade class at École Notre-Dame-des-Vallées. Before I start, I would just like to mention that I myself live in West Terrace Crescent, and I have lived there for almost 10 years now, so I've kind of got both perspectives, you know? So, I love my school, but the big problem is we are running out of space for our students. And I know that because I'm a student there. So to start off, we are a K-12 school with an added pre-kindergarten program, meaning we have students from 2 years old to 18 years old, sharing the same space, bathrooms, hallways, lockers even. The primary students have very big classes, which, mind you, keep growing. Next year, we're going to have 2 first-grade classes. We don't know where we're going to put them. We're out of classrooms. And so, therefore, they use the majority of the space. Despite the fact that there is a smaller amount of secondary students, the situation is much worse for them. Because of the lack of available classrooms, the older students, such as the 11th and 12th graders, are cramped into small rooms or closets or offices to learn. Even my own 9th grade class, we're stuck in a small room attached to the kitchen, and we're constantly disrupted by the younger students and teachers using the kitchen because we're the only entrance to it. My classroom is also separated from the 8th grade classroom solely by a thin wall of glass, meaning it's hard to take tests because another class is always learning next to us. In fact, next year, my class is going to be around 10-ish students, and we're going to be forced to learn in a classroom that fits about 5. So don't know what we're going to do there. Adding on, you really need to know what it's like to learn there to understand why our situation is so dire. Our lack of space means that we also have a lack of resources and opportunities. The secondary students don't have a music program and only have a theater program for half of the year because the primary students require the music room for their own music classes. Last semester, for our theater course, we had to use the science classroom instead of the music room, like the year prior, because the primary students had music classes during that time. We could barely hold dress rehearsals for even our choir program this year, because when we did get the music room to practice, one of the younger classes would have gym right next door. The secondary students can't have clubs either because there is no space to host them. The primary students are always using the library, music room, gym, etc. Finally, I would like to point out that adding an expansion to the school wouldn't affect the traffic flow at all, despite what others have said today. It's the same students just next door. They would use the same busing program and the same current parking lots. Whereas if we were to build next to St. Tim's, that would disrupt the traffic flow there because that would be another bus programs, more teachers, different students. If you didn't know, that road goes right through Sunset. And in Sunset, there's lots of neighborhoods, there's a huge apartment complex, and there's a lot of businesses such as the dentist and the vet. So that would just disrupt that, that all. All in all, the situation here at NDV is getting worse and we're running out of space. Not to mention, it's not hurting anyone or the community really, only bothering some. Really, the only difference between a Francophone and an English school is the language spoken within its walls. So why can't we get more space, but they can? Thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you, Madeline. Very well done. Oh, we have a question. Councillor Flowers.
That was a very good presentation. I just had one question. So that you said there's kids as young as 2 years old at the school. Is it a daycare?
There's a preschool. There's a
Preschool?
program. That's the word.
So they're learning. It's not simply a daycare.
Yeah.
Thank you, and thanks for your presentation.
Okay, thank you, Madeline. Tracy Radalek.
Thank you for letting me speak tonight. My name is Tracy Ritalik. Our family is in a unique position. Both of our children attend NDV, and we are also residents of West Valley. My kids won't get the benefit of enjoying the new building, but I wanted to express our full support for the development of the secondary school on the site next to the elementary school. My son is graduating from NDV this week. My daughter is finishing grade 9. Both have been attending NDV since preschool, when it was over on the other side, in the portables. So we've seen a lot of growth. Our home is primarily Anglophone, so it was vital for us to keep them in a Francophone program so they could maintain their language. It's their heritage, and we were extremely grateful to have the opportunity to stay at NDV for secondary school so they could continue their French education. Yes, NDV is already a high school squeezed into an elementary school, and they need more space. I can speak from their experience of the crowding that they have faced. The school is doing really well as they can in their efforts to balance elementary and secondary education. There's a huge focus on the NDV family at that organization. Many activities encourage interaction between higher and lower grades, which is really beautiful to see. School community is strong, but operating on 2 different schedules is a challenge for staff and students alike. Space-wise, they are pushed to the limits. I can attest to the fact that my kids have classes in cramped rooms, sometimes vacant offices. My son has been moved from office to office during exams on occasion due to space restrictions. During grade 10 and 11, he used a small meeting room as his classroom. Located near the entrance, it is loud and distracting, but it's what they had and they made it work. And now it's being used by other students this year. If this was a workplace, it probably would not be an acceptable environment. Classes are being held in the school library for a portion of each day. There is a science lab, but it is used as a regular classroom, making it inaccessible much of the time. A room that was originally designed as a lounge is being used as a classroom. That's the glass room that Madeline was talking about. One wall is made up of rolling glass panels. It's been covered with a film to eliminate distractions, but there's only so much that can be done. The only access to the kitchen is through this room, which is extremely disruptive. During lockdown drills that the school has to do, my daughter has ended up sheltering in the kitchen with nothing more than a tin roll-down door over the counter to keep them safe. That's just the space that's close to proximity to their classroom, and I find that a little bit alarming, to say the least. They need more space. The secondary students need to have a designated place to learn in proper classrooms. If they regularly could access a gym and have room for other programs, all the better. I'm sure the elementary students would enjoy spreading out in their own building as well. Close proximity to each other would help the NDV family continue with between the lower and higher grades and keep the school community alive if the buildings are close to each other. Of course, if you don't have children in school, that will not be a major concern. What many are concerned about is traffic. We are all tired of dealing with traffic in Cochrane. West Valley is another community that was created with a single access. Fortunately, in this area, we can escape via Mitford Park if we had to. And I'm that mom that wakes up in the night and thinks about these things. So I've processed that in my head several times over. As a resident of West Valley, I know exactly what it's like to try to drive during high traffic times. It's annoying, but adding a high school isn't going to make much of a difference. We've heard this time and time again tonight. The school is only open to students for 180 days a year. This leaves more than half of the school year student-free. Less than half of the year is impacted by any kind of school traffic. Francophone schools are different than Anglophone schools. For one thing, they're smaller. It's not going to be like dropping a Cochrane High School on that site and having that population. I found this example today. The Francophone K-12 school in Lethbridge, which has a population in excess of 105,000, had 211 students this past school year, between K and 12. Cochrane will naturally be smaller than this, especially for the time being. Franco-Sud has free busing, and high school students in the system typically don't drive to school. Our buses already carry both high school and elementary school students. They are not filled to capacity, leaving plenty of space for adding students to the existing routes with no additional impact to traffic. A school built alongside the existing school will allow our teachers to simply park at the existing school and walk over. Remember that it's already a high school and already has staff that are teaching high school students without adding more necessarily right off the bat. The new facility will offer space available to the community should they choose to embrace it. And our kids need the space. They'll benefit from the designated high school. Community could benefit from as well should they choose to embrace it. Keeping the elementary school and secondary schools close together in West Valley makes sense. Thank you. 4 seconds.
Yes, you nailed that. Okay, thank you, Tracy. I don't see any questions. Is Andre? I got the last name wrong last time.
Hi there. I'm Andre Vitalik. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. Thanks for allowing me to have time to speak. I am a grade 12 student at the Notre Dame des Vallées Stool. I've been at the stool since preschool, so I was at the other building. I've seen the stool grow, and I'm noticing the changes and what we might need. My sister also goes to the stool, but none of us will be able to see the changes if they are made. But I'm just here to speak because I really think it's for a right cause, and I hope that later students will get to experience a new stool. So a few problems I've discovered, and also some of my friends have talked to me about. One already mentioned was the bathrooms. It's kind of, well, there's not enough bathrooms to begin with, and sharing them with younger students is kind of tough. And of course, classes, the options we have just for the high school students, there's options until 9th grade, but none of them are exactly what we would want. There's not buildings for things like mechanics or anything, because we use just the classrooms that are available, and we're already missing classrooms. I've experienced many very small classrooms being a smaller class. Since I'm in grade 12, there's only 2 of us, but we were crammed into the old vice principal's classroom. And first of all, I kind of feel bad that the vice principal doesn't have that classroom, but fitting 2 of us and a teacher inside that classroom is difficult. Sorry. A separate building would be very nice, having another gym, because I was also realizing we were getting less gym time. It's very tough to schedule gym times for different students with that many classes in the same gym that is already small. There's multiple classes that had to go together. There's 7th and 8th graders that would have to go together, and it was just nicer to have their own classes themselves. For options, my experience being in grade 12, there wasn't so many options. I know that when the stool grows, it would be easier to offer these options, but I had to go online, and that was not the same experience at all. I would have really liked just to get something more hands-on at the school, and I know that a new high school would be much better for that. I really love the community there. I've chosen to stick with Francophone because I just love the teachers there. I just love everybody there. I had the option to switch schools many times, and it would have been much easier if I would just gone with a big school with more programs. But it feels right to be at that school. And if I would have gotten the chance to be at my own high school, that would have been really amazing. It's unfortunately I couldn't, but I'm just hoping some of the students get to someday. And I think that just about wraps it up. Thank you so much for listening to me, and hope everyone has a good day.
Yeah, thank you, Andre. Appreciate you being here tonight. We have, looks like one question for you. Councilor McFadden?
Yes, thank you. Andre, I don't really have a question for you. I just wanted to wish you best of luck in your exams and in your graduation, and that's about it. And thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you very much.
Have a great night.
Okay. Next up is Wally Baruch. Looks like I got this one really wrong.
Good German name, Brook is fine.
Yeah.
Hello, my name is Wally Brook, or Bruce.
Okay.
Thank you very much for inviting us to this very important session, and I'm going to just read because I've practiced this one. Here we go. My name is Wally Bruce. My home is located on Quigley Drive. It borders the alley that's directly beside the area of the proposed Francophone High School. You will hear or have heard from my neighbors and other residents of West Terrace and West Valley in relation to our concerns regarding increased traffic, emergency access, current green space usage, and lack of facilities for students. Very important to us. I would like to address the personal costs to the residents, as I feel these should also be considered. Firstly, I read a statement reported by the Eagle in which someone suggested that the addition of a high school would increase the value of our property. I reached out to my realtor and confirmed that this is actually not the case. In new neighborhoods, the sale value may increase due to the proximity of schools. However, in the older, well-established neighborhoods, buyers are typically looking for a quieter and more relaxed residential area. Schools can negatively impact the sales process simply due to the smaller number of buyers looking to live next to a high school. Your pool of buyers will shrink, not increase in our neighborhoods. Of note, it is the residents that pay the taxes that in turn pay for the operating expenses of schools. Given the smaller pool of potential buyers, it will likely decrease the values of our homes and reduce the tax base the schools and the town depend on. Please understand, I am not saying that our tax base will reduce by enormous sums, and no one has a magic ball to foretell what a future sale will actually be, but I do know that absolutely every dollar matters. Secondly, many of the current residents of Cochrane moved from Calgary for the slower, more relaxed atmosphere of Cochrane. My husband and I are no exception. We lived in a small house on 33rd Ave in Martelou. There were 10 houses on the opposite side of our block and 9 on our side. We didn't know everyone personally, but we knew who lived on the block. It was busy, but we could walk across the street and talk to our neighbors back then, much like we can on Quigley Drive now. We never thought we'd move from our beautiful home, but fast forward to 2020, we saw a 4-story condo building directly across the street, another 6-story going in as well. Adding to this was the constant building of the area. Streets became impossible to navigate, traffic congestion made it impossible to enjoy a walk or rest in your own backyard. Trees were replaced by concrete, and the night sky became a blank wall of, yes, concrete. I've spoken to 2 people in the past week who have voiced concerns about the growth pattern currently underway in Cochrane. One moved in 2016, and although they enjoy the business opportunities the growth provided, it was the constant and never-ending construction that is making them rethink their move. The other, a young man with a beautiful young child, moved here in 2018, has concerns about the traffic already coming through. This concern was voiced by a third person who's worried about her grandchildren safely crossing the already busy Quigley Drive. As I mentioned earlier, my comments are related to the personal effect of the proposed development. My proximity to any type of construction will have an impact on the health of my husband, simply due to health issues. Dust and dirt is annoying to most, but will have devastating effects on anyone who has health issues. I suspect more people than just our household will be adversely affected by construction. The worry associated with any devaluation of our home equity is also of constant concern at the moment, as the majority of our current residents rely on that resale value to accommodate our needs as we age. I really feel any distress. We are not against new schools. Young people are everyone's hope for the future. What is being asked of our community, the loss that we will realize versus the gains that may be made with the new build, are not even. At this point, the benefits residents will lose far exceeds the value the school on this small spot will bring to our community. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, Wally.
Thanks.
Debbie Gammon? Come on.
No, you got it right the first time.
Okay. I shouldn't even try.
It is a French name, but I am not. So yes, my name is Debbie Gammon, and I've lived in West Terrace for 28 years. And my children have gone through all of the same schools as probably everybody else's, and I've loved it, and it's been wonderful. And hearing everybody else bring their presentations for both on the sides of the Francophone school and of the residents has been enlightening, and I think it's been well done on all sides for a very emotional topic for us all. So we all want what's best for our children, we all want what's best for our community, and we all still want to maintain that quality of life that drove us to pick our homes in the areas that we picked. And for me, that's absolutely not any change. It's pretty normal for our children to jump from one school to the next because that's the way our school system is built. So although I have sympathy for hearing a complete Francophone environment, and that sounds amazing, that's not available for everybody else. And for me, this is not about Francophone versus Anglophone. This is about space and what's best for everyone involved. We want to make sure that we get these children in schools that are going to serve them well for their future uses, regardless of what your education background is or where you put your tax dollars to. There's been a lot of really great presentations that have presented a lot of really wonderful information, factual data from actual planners, engineers, people that are a lot smarter than me. So I really want to thank you for the opportunity to speak about this. Yeah, many others have presented. So some of the things that really struck me was like the visual images of what exactly does a two-story building look like 15 meters from your backyard when you've lived there for 28 years. I live at the entrance to that parking lot that is going to be this new school if it goes through with proposal in the wonderful place where everybody does their U-turns to drop off their children. That creates all kinds of issues. Half a block away is the Montessori school too. And my children went there too, and they also went to Mitford. When you talk about the entrance and exit capacities, the schools, the spaces, you know, you're bringing this in an environment where you're only talking about the Francophone school, but what about Mitford? All of the schools are bursting at the seams. It's not a Francophone problem. It's not an elementary school problem. It's a crisis of our education system and all of our communities. And Cochrane has been on the fastest growing list for what, 20 years now? So this is nothing new. It's not that we don't have space. We got lots of space. Look around. It's that the developers are pushing in more and more. How much can we squeeze in? And in this time when we're rezoning all of these communities, like Kelly said, we picked these places because they have big lots. I can park 5 cars close to my house. And all of my neighbors do too, because they all have like 3 kids, 4 kids, and they all start driving. It creates all kinds of problems all on its own. But what I really want to know is, how are we supposed to squeeze in these schools when there's not that much room there to begin with? So you took a look at that visual image of, you take the railway line out, you take that side access out, and then what's left? It's left with a little L-shaped lot. What happens when Whitford needs to put their cubicles back in? What happens when these other schools need more? And just on another note, you talk about the community being available to use that space. I don't know if that's just because I haven't seen it, but I've sure as hell never been invited to anything at the school. And using that space in the field, yeah, we do use that space. And I wonder too, so we've got the opportunity for the space to be used on nights and weekends, and my analytical brain goes, great, where the hell are they gonna park? So when you have 300 people at your basketball or volleyball tournament, and you have space at your Francophone school for 20 cars for your teachers, because that's all you need, what happens when that happens? Where do they all go? We talk about the entrance and exit capacity. I'm another one that thinks about how the hell you get out of our community, and I have that same plan too. I drive around the pond and I get out. The railway has been doubled in that line behind us, so that brings extra complications as well. It just ups the opportunities for problems. I think they deserve a school. I think they deserve a community. I think they deserve to have everything and then some. I think that this is not the space for it. It's passionate. We all want the best for our communities and our children, and I absolutely think they deserve that. With other high schools, my children went to Bow Valley, and they bussed up to Cochrane High because they didn't have the facilities for drama. They didn't have the facilities for shop. That's a part of being a part of an educational community, is that we rely on each other to be able to share our spaces. So I empathize, but I don't think that that's the be-all, end-all, and I think that there's a better site for this, and I think that some very serious thought needs to be put into it, and I thank you for your time. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Debbie. Clarita Azar.
So my name is Clarita Azar, a high school student at Notre Dame des Vallées School in Cochrane. I'm representing my 9th grade class. So I'm proud to live in this town and be part of this Francophone community. Even though I love my school, I'll admit that it's facing real challenges. It's too small to meet the needs of Francophone students. Unfortunately, this is influencing the decisions of many students, leading them to attend Anglophone high schools instead. The expansion of our school is necessary for many reasons. Expanding our school will help us meet all the students' needs and respect more the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. First of all, expanding our school would ensure that Francophone students receive a fair and equal education compared to that of the larger Anglophone high schools in our small town. This is currently impossible at Notre Dame des Vallées due to the severe lack of space and resources we're facing. Our school does not have enough restrooms. This forces high schoolers to wait for the elementary students to finish using them before going in, which takes a lot of time. Unfortunately, this prevents high school students from arriving to school on time. Therefore, expanding the school would solve this issue. Currently, the huge lack of resources prevents our school from offering a high-quality option classes that high school students will enjoy, such as construction and like mechanical stuff. The lack of resources also makes it difficult to offer as many activities as Anglophone schools do. This pushes Francophone students to leave our school and choose larger Anglophone schools instead. We have like 3 people in our class leaving next year because we don't have enough options in our school. Since Notre Dame des Vallées is so small, high school students don't have their own space during lunch or exams. We do not have a cafeteria where we, students, can gather and eat together. On top of that, we always have to switch classrooms during exams because of the small size of our classes. This creates a lot of chaos and stress before exams. Unfortunately, our school is simply not able to meet all the needs of high school students. This encourages Francophone students to leave and enroll in Anglophone schools instead, which contributes to the loss of their first language and their culture. Secondly, Article 23 of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms guarantees the right of education in the minority language. In Cochrane, French is the minority language, which means Francophone parents and citizens have the right to enroll their children in a school of their first language when the number of students justifies it. This international right is sadly being ignored in our town. Anglophone English people, like we have a lot that had the right to open several high schools without any difficulties. But unfortunately, our request for an expansion is difficult to approve and is facing many obstacles. The way we're being treated clearly does not respect the charter. It does not respect our rights as Francophones who are simply trying to guarantee the legal entitlements. It also harms our future as Francophone students. Therefore, expanding our school will strengthen the Charter of Rights and Freedoms and help citizens respect it more. We need all your support to make this project happen. In conclusion, our small school does not have enough resources for students. Expanding it will improve students' education and better respect the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. You are all important figures who can help us ensure fairness and equity in our country. You can also help us reinforce the justice in this town. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Clarita. Well done. Now we're going to go to Suzanne Martin.
Hello, my name is Suzanne Martin. I've been part of the Cochrane community for 19 years. It's kind of shocking, I was counting it while I was here. I'm a civil engineer, and I've also studied to a master's level in applied psychology and particularly in human development. I speak today in support of the Franco-Sud community and the town of Cochrane as a whole. As I've been sitting here, I received a text message from a friend in Sunset, which made me realize there's no one here defending this community that has a proposed school coming into it. It also has only one entrance and exit. And I wonder what this community that we're beside tonight would have to say about another community proposing an additional school in their community. Reality is we live in a small town that was never designed for the expansive growth that we are experiencing. And we all make sacrifices because of it. We all experience inconveniences. Sometimes we even bond over those inconveniences, like the traffic circle at the construction zone and being stuck by the train. And yet, despite these inconveniences, we all choose to continue to live here, largely because of this community and the small town feel that is here. When making decisions for community, it's good to consider the community on whole. The community might be a neighborhood, it might be a group of people with a common goal or passion, it might be the whole town. The community might be the town and the county that surrounds it, that includes people who would benefit from the schools that exist in the town of Cochrane. I did not grow up in a Francophone community. I did not grow up in a Catholic community, but I did grow up in a strong community and have benefited many times over my life from that sense of community. What I know about the Francophone community in Cochrane from seeing them at the school, at the pool, in kids' sports teams and events, is they are a warm and welcoming, supportive community. The school has supported women in Afghanistan through fundraising efforts associated with the secret marathon that they run through their neighborhood of West Terrace. They raised money for Marketa Stenzel, the woman in the neighborhood who was defrauded at Safeway in 2023. They visit the seniors at Bethany, the seniors lodge in their neighborhood. They have recently raised money to help Brielle, a member of the Cochrane community that I'm sure you are all aware of. The school is multicultural. They include Muslim students, students of Asian descent, of African, European, and many other cultures. They are accepting of all religions and spiritual backgrounds without prejudice. A strong sense of community is instilled in the students of NDV from the moment they arrive at the school. As you heard from Bridget, this community is a family. You've heard from others who've been supported and benefited from this community as well. The older children help foster this sense of community in the younger students. And this sense of community is what helps us maintain the small town vibe that is so cherished by Cochrane residents. Even as we continue to grow, splitting up the community with a geographical separation between the schools will introduce a subtle cleft that may be hard to measure. But if we want to see a strong example of how clefts in community can create cascading effects, we need only look south of the Canadian border. Splitting up the students of the Franco-Sud community to two separate sites will ultimately have an undesirable effect on the community mindedness of these developing minds. My request to the council is to do whatever is possible to keep the elementary and high school aged children together, regardless of where that may end up being. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next up is Abigail Youngroth.
Good evening, council members and members of the community. I hope you're all doing well. My name is Abigail Blessing Oyingroth, and I am a proud Francophone student in grade 10 at École Notre-Dame-des-Vallées, right here in Cochrane. I'm here today to speak not just for myself, but for many students and families who believe in a vision of a future where Francophone students in our town can continue education in French, from kindergarten all the way to grade 12. Without having to give up on the full experience that other students in other schools may have. Now I know many people here might be thinking, your school already goes to grade 12 and it has a preschool, isn't that enough? But the truth is, it is not enough. There is an increase of elementary students in our school, meaning that us high school students have to find different places to be. For example, my class of 4, the grade 10s, have to study in an old meeting room, and even the grade 9s have to study in something we call l'aquarium, meaning a water tank. This classroom does not have any windows and is mostly covered by glass, meaning any of the elementary students who pass by, we can hear all the noises that they make, and even in other classrooms and the kitchen. This is really not helpful for our learning. So yes, it is true. On paper, our school offers education from preschool to grade 12. But the reality, especially in high school, is much more complicated. By the time students reach grade 9, many challenges become clear. Our high school grades are extremely small, such as my class of 4, because of most of the students that leave in grade 8. And when you have such a tiny group of students, it is very hard and sometimes impossible to offer the same kinds of programs and opportunities that larger English high schools in Cochrane provide. We're talking about sports teams, school clubs and leadership programs, science labs, and electives like robotics and intense drama classes, or even technology classes. As much as our school tries to provide them, it is not as easy as you think. But just overall, the real high school experience that so many students want. Some of my friends have left our school after grade 8 because they wanted those opportunities. They wanted the full experience, and I understand that. But it's truly heartbreaking by leaving. They often lose something else, something much more harder to get back, their French. Within a year or two, they speak it less or not at all. They stop using it at home, they lose confidence, and some even feel disconnected from their culture. But it's not only just about those who leave. Some students are obliged to stay, either because their parents insist on keeping them in a French environment or because of language barriers that make English high schools unrealistic. And while that's completely understandable, it can also be very hard. Just like for me, when I'm in an environment with few classmates and fewer programs and limited activities, it is easy to lose motivation. Students like me can start to feel stuck or isolated. They begin to associate French with boredom or limitation, not with opportunity. and that can actually lead to loss of interest in the language itself. Worse, some begin to doubt their own abilities in French. They stop participating, they lose confidence, and even though they're still in a French school, they slowly drift away from the language and the culture without ever having left. That is a problem, because we should be helping those students fall in love with French, not to feel like it is a burden. So even though our school technically goes to grade 12, it doesn't offer what a true high school experience should look like. And it's not the teacher's fault. They work incredibly hard. And it's not a lack of care. It's a lack of resources, space, and enough students to make those programs possible. This is why so many of us believe in the need for a dedicated Francophone high school here in Cochrane, a space built with teens in mind, a school that allows us to keep learning in French and having access to sports, clubs, leadership, science, electives, all the things that can make high school fun, memorable, and meaningful. I know some people may wonder if building a new Francophone high school is necessary. Some may even see it as dividing the community, but this isn't about division, this is about inclusion. It's about giving every student in Cochrane a fair and equal opportunity to thrive in the language of their choice. It's about respecting the rights of Francophone families, rights that are definitely protected in the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. And it's about building a stronger, more welcoming community where all voices matter. I love Cochrane. I want to stay here, and I want to continue to learn here. I want to keep speaking the language that connects me to my family, my identity, and my future. So to everyone who has supported this vision, thank you. Your encouragement gives students like me hope. Hope that one day we will be able to walk through the doors of a real Francophone high school. Hope that we won't have to choose between our education and our identity. It's not about space of the land, but it's mostly about space in your heart. So please let us strive and build this future together. Merci beaucoup. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Abigail. Next up, we have Miriam Bosset.
She had to leave.
Okay. Jasmine Demore Grenbois.
She has also had to leave.
Okay. So that exhausts the speakers list. Is there anyone else in the gallery wishing to speak? Okay. Please come forward and state your name.
Hello, my name is Randy Grunwald. I'm an Anglophone. I married a lovely French-Canadian lady, and our 3 kids go to NDV. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight about the critical topic of expanding educational capacity and opportunities for the children of Cochrane. As Town Council is well aware, and we've kind of beat to death, Cochrane is growing rapidly every year, and you were presented with information earlier this year that showed significant strain on all of our schools across the entire system, and it's forecast to increase year after year for the foreseeable future. And I think we as a community would be foolish to squander the opportunity to have additional school capacity built in our community. As other speakers have outlined, NDV is struggling with space. Like many other Cochrane schools, one of the largest issues for NDV as it exists right now is it's built using the P3 funding model. So this is where a third-party investor is paid for the school upfront. They own the school, and then Francophone leases it back to use. So under this arrangement, making any expansions or modifying the existing school becomes very difficult. And this is why we have the issues that we're having now. I was going to outline the bathroom problems, but I think you've heard a lot about the bathroom problems. But it's 3-year-olds to grade 12s using the same bathrooms. There's not enough. And even if NDV could expand under the existing P3 model, Francophone would still need to acquire the adjacent land to build onto it. So even if you want to put another portable onto the school, we can't until you get that land designated for it, because we're at the limit of the property lines at the moment. Francophone is more than willing to work with the residents to address some of the concerns that they have, whether that's in regards to the building design, to ensure that the school has a lower profile on the west-hand side. Maybe that's only one level. Maybe we move the school as far as we can, property line-wise, to the existing school. All of those are options that are available during the design phase. And one of Franco-Sud's stated goals is to have community involvement in that process. The current proposal also includes additional on-site staff parking, and we can work with the with the school on a student driving policy that hopefully reduces the number of students driving and using what are still public roads. Fortunately, Franco-Sud uses a portion of its budget to include zero-fee busing for its students. This is partly because NDV serves such a large geographic area compared to other schools, and it's a common practice across the Franco-Sud network. And with that data, we can show that a very high proportion of high school students in the Franco-Sud network choose to use the bus to get to and from school. Having NDV and the new high school on the same site will reduce the overall bus traffic and vehicle traffic across Cochrane compared to having it on a different site, where we'd be doubling the bus traffic. And having double the number of half-full buses is going to be very inefficient and not cost-effective, and it's going to create further traffic congestion for the rest of Cochrane. I believe the concerns raised about the loss of green space are mostly unfounded, as the proposed site currently consists of a non-native grass field and a gravel parking lot, neither of which holds significant environmental value. Currently, the area is used informally as an off-leash dog park by some, and it's also used by the existing school, but not as a designated or ecologically significant green space. Furthermore, a significant amount of the existing grass area will continue to exist after construction is completed and will still be available for the use of residents. The proposed site is relatively small. It's 11,818 square meters, and it's proposed to have 275 students. That's 43 square meters per student. But if you look at an example like Cochrane High, they're on 6,066 square meters and have over 1,000 students. That's about 6 square meters per student. So we're talking about 6 square meters per student versus 43 square meters per student. And they also have a shared sports field with the tri-schools. As for vehicle traffic, one quote in the Cochrane Eagle was that 11,363 vehicles per day use Quigley Drive, which seemed very high to me, but I'll take it as the truth. The good news is we put 50 more vehicles used by NBV there every day. That would be a less than 0.5% increase in traffic on Quigley Drive, so not significant. As for the property value of residents, I understand, I'm sympathetic. I don't believe it will cause a significant decrease in property value. I too would be more concerned about the train track that you back onto. I also back onto the train track on the opposite side of in Heartland. And the noise concerns that I have about the area is more about the train rather than a school. Addressing emergency exits, every community in Cochrane has the exact same problem. Sunset has one exit, Heartland has 2 exits, but they go onto the same road. West Valley has 1 exit. Even on the Fireside has 1 exit. So no matter where you push the school to, you're still going to have single point of access in a lot of cases. I believe this site is the best available. Franco-Sud has determined that this is the only site out of the proposed options that met initial design requirements. Franco-Sud has exhausted other options like facility sharing or negotiating with Rocky View or Calgary Catholic on other sites that have been earmarked for their use. Denying the use of this land will lead to lengthy delays while we wait for a different site. This is a good site for a small high school like the one we're proposing. It meets the requirements of Franco-Sud and its students. The land has already been zoned for a school for more than a decade. The project utilizes existing space and while preserving other larger sites for larger school projects. And there is practical and logistical benefits to the students, families, school division, and the town of Cochrane to having both the high school and NDV on adjacent sites. Sorry, excuse me. A core tenet of the future success and prosperity of Canadian society is providing educational opportunities to our community's children. Every adult in this room has enjoyed our society's investment in universal basic education when we were growing up, even when this caused minor inconveniences for the adults around us. I urge the Town Council to approve the use of this site to build a new high school for Cochrane. Thank you very much for your time and consideration.
Okay, thank you, Randy. Anyone else? I see someone bolting for the...
Good evening. My name is Lamal Yafi. I'm very thankful to be able to speak tonight on Treaty 7 land. I don't have a formal presentation or speech lined up. I'm just here to speak from the heart. It is past my bedtime, so my speech won't be as eloquent. I have been a Cochrane resident for over 15 years. I purchased my house on Quigley Drive in October of 2012. As a single lady, I was really happy with the area. It seemed like a very quiet, modest neighborhood. In 2014, the construction of the school went up, and I was really concerned that my livelihood would be changed, that it would be busy, that the streets wouldn't be quiet. Sure enough, when the school was completed, I was quite surprised. I wouldn't have even known there's a school there. The way that the traffic is managed has never been an issue. I live basically right across the street from the school. Where I am, the school is 132 Quigley Drive. I live at 137 Quigley Drive. So I'm basically going to be adjacent right across the street from the proposed new school. And I have to say, because of over the last 12 years, the school has not been an issue for me. I feel like if there was a new school being built there, I don't think it would add any impact to traffic. I know that throughout the night we've discussed and you've heard stories that, you know, that there is a need for another school. I think the issue of where it goes is what is going to be debated. I don't think building the school is what's being debated now. I think it's where. I think if we look at maybe other properties, I feel like that you will be back here again addressing the same issue. I know the other gal spoke about her friend from Sunset, felt like that her voice wasn't addressed. And I think if you propose to have this built in Sunset, you're going to be back here and the Sunset residents are going to be asking for their own public hearing. Aside from that, I have seen how the school buses come in. I've looked, they're basically half empty. It's like if you time it, they come in and almost at the same time, they're probably there for 4 minutes and then they're gone. I've noticed that the school entry times from the French school and the Midford school are staggered, so you don't see the traffic, getting backed up. Just give you an example. We used to do skating at the public arena on Mondays, and we would be done skating lessons at 3:45, and it would take us 25 minutes to leave the tri-school area, and it was an absolute disaster. It seemed like everybody was getting out at the same time. When Midford gets out, I don't feel like there's a traffic issue, and then when the Francophone school gets out, I don't feel like it's an issue. I am a bit biased as well. As I said, I live across the street from the school, but as a born and raised Calgarian who is a visible minority, who basically, as a first-generation Canadian, has gone through a crisis identity, not knowing how I'm going to instill my cultural values in my children and raise them with, a cultural background. I had my concerns, and we had applied to Notre Dame de Valley, which is a Catholic school. It's a Francophone school. I am a Muslim Arab woman, and they accepted us. We were very happy that as a Catholic school, they took us in, and my children have been thriving there. This is our first year there. My son in kindergarten, who spoke zero French when he came in, is thriving and doing so well and is so fluent in French. I have 2 children who are in the Petite Abeille program, which is the preschool program. They are also now, basically going to be Francophone children. And so I'm very thankful for the school that they accepted us and that they are very inclusive of us, even though it is a Catholic school. We respect the Catholic traditions and the values of the school, as they are the closest thing that embody the traditions of the Muslim faith as well. So I don't see, my other concern that I forgot to address is that right now there's an empty gravel parking lot. That parking lot has been my concern for the last 14 years, as every night I have to witness children doing donuts in it because it's a gravel parking lot. And I wish some days it was paved, and I look forward to it being paved so that I don't have to deal with the constant donuts in the parking lot. Other than that, I do hope that whatever decision is made in the best interest of the community, and I think that's it. Thank you.
Okay, you used your time wisely. Thank you. Is there anyone else? Please step forward.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council and the community. My name is Simon. I do strongly believe that the foundation of any society is education that brings out our identity and that helps us realize the strength in the difference that we have. And I do believe that it is only wise for any society to further education in one form or the other. Cochrane is a growing community. And as a result, it's attracting so many people from different parts of this country, or even beyond. Perhaps there's something that we're doing right. We need to coexist. I imagine myself going in a community where I don't understand maybe one language well, or I don't associate, or maybe I don't know the culture of that place very well. And I'm being put in a place where I have to adapt to that culture. It may not be very easy, leave alone the burden of being in a high school. It's important, I believe, that such a person should be given the opportunity to learn in an environment which is suitable and that can help them to understand and advance their education. It will help all of us, not just them. Schools are built in neighborhoods. Yes, the distance from neighborhood may be different, but they will always be in neighborhoods. I want to re-echo what somebody said here. The community is growing. Whether we put school there or we put it somewhere else, whether we don't put it there, we will face the pressure of growth. The earlier we plan it, while we have the resources, the better. If we wait later, we'll be forced to do it, and unfortunately, sometimes in an unplanned manner. I think the time is now. Traffic in Cochrane is a growing problem. The school is not there right now. Tell me if you don't have a traffic problem. It is there. It will be there. It's a problem of urbanization in our society. Every development definitely will have two sides. It will have its pro, it will have its con. But perhaps we need to carefully weigh. If today our property values went high, but perhaps that one or two people do not get proper education, which one weighs better? Maybe, perhaps one person will move, I don't know from where, Quebec or France or wherever, but cannot speak English very well. Maybe sitting here tomorrow leading us, either as our mayor or as our councillor. Imagine the cost of not educating this person. it's my prayer that we consider this. I hear the cry of the people who say no, but I think it is very important that we consider the need of the Francophone citizens in our community. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other individuals wishing to speak? I see someone.
Good evening, Mayor and Councillor. My name is Melissa Martel. I'm the school principal of NDV. First, I would like to thank all members of our community who came and talked to this hearing. You have heard a lot of testimony. I understand and respect all those different perspectives. You know, the heart of a city has for a long time been a school. It's where you can meet friends, enjoy life, and learn in a safe environment. The Francophone community is like a small family, as someone else said. And having both schools close to each other will help to keep that family spirit. For us, this site is a good choice to continue collaborating, mentoring, and working all together. That's the only thing I wanted to say. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to call again. Is there anyone else in the gallery wishing to speak tonight? Going once. Can't see behind the beam. Going twice. Okay, that will conclude the public portion. I'm not sure if administration has something you want to share or if council has any questions for administration on what we've heard tonight. Councillor Fedeko, over to you.
Thanks. I had a couple, and I just wanted to get some clarification. The subject about portables it's just not an option because it can't be added to the site. I'm just, because when we talk about a lack of space, right? When we don't have enough classrooms for youth, my children obviously don't attend the Francophone school, but my children have had to attend classrooms and portables, and they've also been, put in other classrooms or music rooms or whatever to learn. So I'm just kind of curious if that is not an option and why.
Through the Mayor to Councillor Fedeko, as administration, we rely on our partners at the different school boards to identify the needs for the different schools and what they need to provide services to their students. So to that end, we do not weigh into what the needs are and how they would provide them. We've been here to help facilitate the request for an additional school site to satisfy the need identified by the Franco Sud School Board for an additional facility for high schools.
Okay. Yeah, that's just an interesting one because sometimes if you don't have a choice or if it's the way to be able to get more classroom space, then that to me might be an option to look at. And then I was curious, how long has the pre-kindergarten been operating out of the school?
Since its inception in
2014. Okay. And if for whatever reason council decided that perhaps a different location was to be kind of explored, I heard that it could push this project out 6 to 8 years. And I guess I'm just curious on the timeline as to what would make that 6 to 8 years, because really, as of right now, even if council said, this is the spot, you still have to go through the actual funding process. So to me, whether or not I can understand that it takes more time to explore a different area, but it's not like we have anything that's approved right now anyway. So just kind of a couple curiosities that I have more than anything.
Through the chair to Councillor Fedeko, with respect to the timeline for delay, identification of an alternate site would absolutely introduce some delay to the provision of a new school site to Cochrane. I'm not sure where the metric of 6 to 8 years came from, so that's not something I can comment on the variability of it. I believe either any delay though would result in a delay in the request to the province for funding, which could jeopardize the ability to access the accelerated program currently available, which I believe Franco Sud is looking to align the request with.
Okay, Councillor McFadden?
Yeah, I think I've just got 3 questions. Can you refresh me? I'm sure it's here somewhere, I'm just missing it right now. What's the expected footage of the building? I heard some different numbers thrown around and I lost track of which was the proposed one.
Through the Mayor, Councilor McFadden, I don't have it right in front of me right now. I know it's in the report, so I didn't bring that right up with me right now, but that is information we'll absolutely bring with us to the second and third reading as information for council to consider. But I know we do have it referred to in the report.
Okay, yeah, and I know I read it at some point. And then, do we have any response or any feedback from the Rocky View School Division? How this might impact Midford or any of their thoughts?
Yeah, through the Mayor, Councillor McFadden, this site and the opportunity for Adjournment de Vallée and Francophone to provide a high school, they have engaged with the Rocky View School Board, and Rocky View School Board is in full support of the utilization of the adjacent site in question. So.
Okay, so that would have included, because one of the things I heard a lot was the concerns about the lack and potential loss of recreation space, but what we're understanding is that the Rocky View School Board is willing to kind of make that work. I don't want to paraphrase too much here, but
yeah, through the Mayor, Councillor McFadden, that is correct. They were engaged on this opportunity, and they did not have any concerns or objections with another facility on the subject site.
okay. And then my final question, not sure if it's in your bailiwick to answer or not, but do we have, if the proposed high school is built based on kind of current student uptake, do we have a forecast of how many years it would take for the proposed new high school to reach capacity?
Through the Chair, Councillor McFadden, again, that's something that we typically look to our partners at the school board to provide insight to us for. We rely on them as the subject matter experts in how much square footage and what type of school and facilities and the type of space that they need, not just for classrooms, but as we heard today, to ensure that they're getting an equitable opportunity of access to different types of enrichment opportunities, whether those be sport or through music or theater or other opportunities.
So, and just where that question is coming from is I know in different school presentations, we certainly understand that a lot of our schools are already exceeding capacity in their operations or just about out at capacity. And so that would be something I'd like to be able to understand is kind of what the forecast of capacity would be for this school. So.
Yeah, through the Mayor, Councillor McFadden, we'll definitely work with Francophone to get your response on that for next week's regular meeting of council.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you very much for the answer to the questions. I'd like to thank the remaining members of the gallery. Thanks for coming out and having an exciting night with us. Certainly appreciate, I think, the 30-some presentations we had and appreciate everybody for engaging. So thank you very much.
Councillor Reid.
4 quick questions. Was this site always designated as a school site?
Through the Mayor, Councillor Reid, to the best of my knowledge, it has been a school site for an extended period of time. But again, the exact time of when it was identified as community services land use is something that I can bring back as an update for the regular meeting at council as well.
I'm just trying to appreciate it if I were a resident there and had bought or built a home in that area, particularly in the cul-de-sac that backs onto the school site. Would I have known that that was going to be a future school site?
Through the Mayor, Councillor Reid, a lot of that information would come through the interpretation of the Municipal Government Act, which enables a municipal reserve parcel, any municipal reserve designated parcel, to be used for a school site, regardless of the land use bylaw of the municipality, as I understand it. But so to that end, it has always been an MR parcel, because that would have happened at a subdivision.
Sorry, if I can just get a yes/no answer.
Yes, they would have been able. They would have had access to know that there is potential for a school to be developed there.
Okay. And then to be clear again, the infrastructure that would be required for this new school site is sufficient in place as far as we know at this point?
Through the Mayor, Councillor Reid, based on our internal engagements, yes, and that will be refined at a development permit stage, which is where we rely on additional studies to inform that.
And did administration anticipate the public reaction to this proposed Francophone school site? Did you anticipate this reaction?
Through the Mayor, Councillor Reid, I think any development activity in a community has the potential to have impact on people's current enjoyment and the current use of their properties. So there's typically some level of impact on any change in any community. So there was some anticipation, which is why we brought it to council through this process to ensure that information was available to the public.
So again, yes or no, that's a yes.
Yes.
And then, given what you've heard thus far, do you believe that administration has done its due diligence in terms of selecting the site?
Through the Mayor, Councillor Reid, I do. Yes.
Okay. And then, is it possible to recognize the quality of life of those people who will be affected by this building? Is it possible to actually have a 30-meter buffer from the railway, a 30-meter buffer from the homes, and still build a 2-story gym and a 1-story school on that, whatever space is left over? I mean, again, I know it's kind of a wild kind of vision of where we might go, but is that in your mind possible?
Through the Mayor, Councillor Reid, I think we're going to rely on our studies and the applications and the design that this moving through this step of the process will provide funding to access. But we do believe, based on our application of the setbacks and the existing bylaws, which included a railway setback, that there is potential for construction of a school to the square footage required on this site. So we did look at that in the planning services team, including consideration of any required setbacks.
So the answer is yes.
Correct, yes.
Okay. And if I could, one more question. You know, the whole issue of traffic, while it was suggested that it's not going to be a problem, it's going to be a problem. There's just no doubt about it. It's been a problem in every community in Cochrane. And in fact, just doing a quick research indicates that high school students in Alberta, 10% of the population of high school students in urban areas in Alberta drive cars. So even if in this situation, it'd be like 15 cars for students, let's hypothetically say. And then with additional staff, there are obviously going to be more cars. So I think traffic, why don't we just accept the fact that the reality that it is going to be a problem? And to suggest otherwise, I think, is a fallacy. But that's just my perspective on it. So thank you.
Councillor Nagel?
I wanted to first offer a compliment. I think if the public speaking and speech writing and leadership qualities showed by the students are any testament to the quality of education being offered at the school, I think your school and all the students are obviously doing a pretty great job. So everybody over there should be proud, students and teachers alike. But I wanted to ask some questions to figure out how this could potentially go forwards and acknowledge and deal with as many of the concerns as possible, including traffic and parking, as was just brought up by Councillor Reid. When the question came up from Councillor McFadden at the beginning of the evening, I felt that the school just deferred to Cochrane's capacity to regulate the parking situation. Have we put any thought into whether or not we can have a really adequate parking solution in this property?
Through the Chair, Councillor Nagel, that is a study that would be a component of the development permit application process. We would rely on to inform the design, that we would then evaluate the design that Francophone applied for to ensure it aligned with the parking study and the minimum required parking stalls for the site. So there's typically unique engineering solutions to some of these problems, and how the applicant chooses to overcome them is something that we would consider, along with the concerns expressed by the residents and the rest of the community.
And because of the proximity to the other school, well, schools, plural, is there some way procedurally that we could go above and beyond our normal parking requirements to make sure that there's a lot of extra spaces there? Because I can just imagine a scenario where parent-teacher interviews or something fall on the same night for multiple schools, and it would just be a flood all over Quigley. How can we mediate that?
Through the Mayor to Councillor Nagel, one of the things I think of when you ask that question is opportunity for essentially sharing a parking allotment, and whether or not we could explore opportunities with, of course, Francophone operates the school next door, and I think that they're more than willing to accommodate the parking for the different events at the different schools when the high school opens. We have to keep in mind they will probably have different hours of operation. They'll probably have parent-teacher days on different days in different circumstances. In addition, I think there's opportunities for us to explore conversations with Rocky View School District about a shared parking agreement, where perhaps all the schools along the street would be able to share each other's parking resources when they have different events, graduations or sporting events that bring in additional parent-teacher interviews, as you mentioned, additional traffic. Yeah.
And is there anything we could do for the residents who are right immediately beside the school to protect their parking? I know street parking is not technically a home's property, but by convention in Cochrane, most people really like to have their street parking available. Is there something we can do to protect that?
Yeah, through the mayor to Councilor Nagel, it's not a common practice, and I'm familiar with it broadly in Cochrane, but I mean, you know, looking at more enforcement of parking and if there's parking limits and parking restrictions and parking times, those are things that could be looked at. I think on an individual circumstance basis, that would be fairly extreme. I think the best opportunity always is to ensure that there's an easier alternative available to people than parking on street if that's disrupting other people's private enjoyment of that street.
And if so, from what I was hearing, for full build out, the school would be at capacity, like grade 12 being at full capacity. Those are the students who would actually be driving. That's easily 5 to 10 years away. If it became a problem in the future, would there then be options for the community to come back and ask for, you know, parking permits for the local residents and stuff like that?
And through the mayor to Councilor Nagel, of course, that would be a decision of council and a broader impact across the community. But those are definitely considerations that I think council and the community could look at in the future of parking restrictions and requirements in response to concerns about who is parking on certain streets and trying to provide priority to the residents on that street.
Okay, and then my last question is whether or not we think there might need to be some extra traffic control infrastructure built, maybe a new set of lights or something like that on it in that intersection here. Is that something that's being considered yet?
Through the mayor, Councilor Nagel again, something that we would consider the development permit phase based on the transportation impact assessment, the parking study, and the type of traffic flows we're seeing, and the amount of parking spaces that are provided and their plan for addressing the lay-by for the buses are all information that will help inform, in addition to the design of the facility, but the number of stalls that are needed and potentially the need for traffic calming as well as a condition of the development.
Okay, and then just hypothetically, say we did determine that a new set of lights was required, is that something that could be included into the construction costs of the school, the way residential development helps pay for these types of infrastructure upgrades?
Through the mayor, Councilor Nagel, I would have to look into that a little bit more and make sure that I bring back an accurate answer to that. I wouldn't want to hazard that can be a negotiated component of it, and I want to make sure that I'm bringing you the right answer.
Okay.
For next week, I can
All right.
bring that back.
Thanks for all your answers and thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Flowers.
Yes, I just had one question about the emergency access. We've had several people say that there's only one way in and one way out of West Valley, but can you confirm that there is another access on the west side?
Through the mayor, Councilor Flowers, there are additional emergency accesses to the community, not necessarily the public accesses, but emergency accesses at a minimum are maintained for the same standard across the municipality for all communities.
But if there was an emergency, it would be opened up so people could exit that way?
Through the mayor, Councilor Flowers, that is correct.
And would you say every community has an emergency access of some sort?
Through the mayor, Councilor Flowers, where there isn't a sufficient number of public accesses, there is a minimum number of emergency accesses per community. So we always meet that minimum access for all communities within Cochrane in the event of emergency. It can be things like opening pathways that are wide enough for a vehicle to drive by. I think there's an example over by the ranch house even as well. So.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Wilson.
I just had a request for when we see this for second and third reading, would it be possible to get a more detailed update on or analysis on our school-ready sites, which ones in the community are school-ready and which ones are close, and just maybe a rank order of those? I feel like I don't have a good line on that still, even though we did touch on it when we first saw this file. I think it would really help with my decision-making on where we end up going in second and third reading.
Through the mayor, Councilor Wilson, we've actually prepared the draft for that report already, and it includes a reference to the school site readiness report that was provided to council earlier in the year. But in terms of which schools are likely to come next, Rivercrest is the next in line after, is the next one that's currently up in line, and Heartland are the two highest priorities for the community, both of which Heartland was explored as, the Heartland site was explored as an alternative as it met the principles and criteria we used in this analysis. But that was one that Rocky View School District had already expressed interest in and was high on their capital project list as well. And so they were not in support of Francophone pursuing any interest in that site.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm looking forward to that report for second and third reading. I think it'll help guide my decision-making process, just because I don't feel like I've at all a good line on what's actually sitting ready for immediate development or somewhat immediate development. I appreciate it.
Mr. Mayor, if I could just interject, just for clarity for council, this is not coming for second and third reading when this comes back. If you recall, we had been looking for council to approve a letter to the province. So that's what you will see at your next meeting. So it's not second and third, but just for clarity.
I appreciate it, but my request could still remain for.
Exactly.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thanks for the clarity.
Letter of endorsement, I think is what we're looking for. Councilor Federico?
Yeah, one last quick question. So, if council were to endorse this project and we're going through, and then, you know, we've stated many things, or you've stated many things, that it, you know, it's gonna be determined at the development permit stage, where does council fit into seeing those plans, design plans, parking plans, traffic plans? And does council have that input then to state whether or not that is something that we agree with around the table, or is that then become an administrative decision because it's hit that end of the development? I'm just curious of what council will see coming back for the public's knowledge.
Through the mayor to Councilor Federico, administration is the development authority on development permit applications of the site. So administration would incorporate all the feedback from public hearings as well as open houses and what we heard from council through this public hearing and any other additional reports to council into that consideration. But it would not be back in front of council for a decision. Of course, administration is happy to share any and all information with council as requested.
Okay, last but not least leaves me, and I'm running out of voice, so I just have two questions that haven't been asked. There was one about infrastructure cost. Should the school be approved, who would be financially responsible for the infrastructure hookup? Water, sewer, those types of things?
Through the mayor, the applicant is typically responsible for all of those costs.
So not the town?
Through the mayor, correct.
Yeah. And then this is not a question, more of a, if you could bring back next week, there was some question around the pre-planning funding that was available through Alberta Education. If you could just maybe provide some clarity on where that or how this project fits into that funding.
To the mayor, we will absolutely follow up with the province and bring back some clarity on that as well.
Okay, thank you. I don't see any other lights on. I do want to take the opportunity to thank everybody for taking the time to exercise your right in the democratic process and show up to a public hearing until almost 10 o'clock at night. And I think it's still Monday. Just thank you for your time and taking part in our process. And with that, I am closing the hearing. Thank you.